that we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos. By the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast a marlow or two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another extravagant episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 446, recorded Sunday, October 22nd, 2023. Tonight we're doing our big triple feature, Tim Burton Spotlight. We got 3 Burton movies, and they are Sleepy Hollow, Frankenweenie, and Edward Scissorhands. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up, man?
Pumpkins.
How's it going, buddy? I am really leaning into the season right now because I'll tell you one thing. The fucking stores are not anymore. We are already in full Christmas shit as of today at every store I went to. And I am not having it. I'm not happy about it. I am going to lean into these pumpkins as hard as I can.
Pumpkins.
There we go.
It is pumpkin season still, folks. The big day is almost here. It's almost upon us, though.
It baffles me that they don't keep things out until the day of when people are still probably looking for costumes and candy, at least. Right. Yeah. What the fuck is happening?
Dress up as Santa Claus if you want to. I guess you can do that.
That's the only option.
Last but not least, calling in from Seoul, South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Extravaganza Stains, aka Ichabod Stains. Credit to Hydraberg on that one.
Yeah, credit to Hydraberg and also all the baggage therein. Certified cooter nickname. All right. That's
a ladies' man over here, you know?
Yeah, totally.
That's one way to describe it, yeah.
Getting them pies.
Such interesting lives.
Pounding all them pies.
God damn.
Oh, yeah.
Pumpkin pie, sweet tater pie.
Pumpkins.
Pecan pie.
Pecan.
Give me one of them pecan pies.
I don't even know what accent that is. Like, what?
That isn't an.
Where are you from?
That's hollering gentleman at any store.
I need pecan pie.
I need a pecan pie.
Get ready, pecan pie.
It's kind of country, but not really.
Yes, that's what a boy likes.
Kind of country, but not really. Let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Here is your final reminder. We do have our November poll currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this November. The theme for November is killer food, and the movies to vote between are Ice Cream Man, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and The Stuff.
Whoa, Bob. And Rigatoni. How those numbers looking, Bob?
About the same. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes doing pretty well, about 50% still. Still a few folks out there left to vote, so it could swing either way. But we're probably talking about tomatoes.
Cool.
People are ready for the truth about the big tomato lobby and what they're hiding from us.
Yeah,
we're gonna blow the roof off this sucker.
We sure are.
Yeah. Get your votes in. You got a few days left before November, and we'll see what we're talking about. We're dropping one more Simpsons minicast. Treehouse of Horror 14 is dropping this Friday, the 27th, on Patreon. Slam that into your ear holes if you have not been keeping up with it. That's 4 straight minicasts, all Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors.
Boogeyman! You nailed the window shut! I'll get the gun!
Wrapping it up for the season, boys. The last one. Here we go.
You gotta shoot the boogeyman. Like, that's the only way to get rid of him.
He's weak. He's weak against bullets, knives, and conventional weaponry.
Loomis definitely.
He might share a passing resemblance to your neighbor, father, or somebody else that might also have access to your home.
Pay no attention. Just start blasting. He might want something sexual. I don't know. So yeah, get your minicast over on Patreon. That's really all we got for Patreon. Rounding out the end of the month is a little thin. Do you guys have anything you need to plug?
Oh, I do. Make sure first you check out Bob's new Tiki video up on our YouTube page. This is the last one for 2023. It's the 4th one for the year. I think the 8th one overall. So we got quite the menu kicking. Bob, this was for National Sasquatch Awareness Day, which was last Friday. Tell us a little bit about that one more time.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
God, yes, come with me.
trying to spread the word. Make sure everybody's aware of the Sasquatch.
Yeah, if you've never heard of Bigfoot, we're here to tell you.
Somehow haven't heard.
He needs a street team, as we know.
We're pounding the pavement for you. But yeah, this specific cocktail was inspired by our favorite Bigfoot documentary that we did an episode on a few years back, and it's free on YouTube. Bigfoot Monster Mystery, aka Drumming for Bigfoot. Watch it if you haven't. It's funny, it's hilarious, it's a good time. And the cocktail's inspired by that. So there's a lot of inside jokes in the video, and I may or may not do a little bit of drumming myself, trying to entertain Bigfoot, so to speak.
Keeping an eye out for him.
Yeah. You know, he'll sneak up on you if you're not paying attention.
In your garage.
It's
I think
true.
Is he
I
here?
think it's pretty clever how you double this video as your audition for the red jumpsuit apparatus. I think that's very cool and brave of you.
Dang, throwback.
Still trying to get in there after all these years. I need the gig, boys.
It's mine now, baby. I'm coming for it.
You weren't wearing the Jesus piece, so they didn't pick you up, you know?
My time has come. Yeah, check that out over on YouTube.
Yeah.
Also, anything else?
Yeah, also, so this Saturday is the horror movie trivia that I will be hosting along with Sean from the Dark Side of Soul. We did this last year and we're doing it again. So it's going to be 3 rounds of horror trivia. There's going to be prizes and giveaways and games before that. So our trivia, the horror movie trivia, starts at 6 and it's about 3 rounds. So maybe it'll go to about like 7 or 7:30. And yeah, but before that we're going to be playing Nightmare at the cafe. We're going to be playing D&D Scooby-Doo style, all kind of different horror themed games, and so it's going to be a fun spooky time. There's going to be some food specials, like I said, giveaways and prizes for the winners of trivia. So come hang out. That's going to be at the DCC cafe here in
The single most thrilling experience of my whole life.
Yes, you can find them on Instagram at their tag is the Dice Latte, and they have their address up there. So if you're in the Seoul area or in Korea, come hang out with us for this Halloween weekend. I'm super excited for it. It was a lot of fun last year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think that's all my. Oh,
that's it. Randy, you got anything? Randy?
Pause.
Oh, okay.
You guys are jolting for me. Am I jolting for you?
No, you sound good.
Fine.
Okay, it's back to normal. Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right, yeah. I do have one more thing to add, so I'll just jump in there if you guys are good.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, there's just one thing for me, which I've mentioned before. I am doing my Cabinet of Cursed Objects daily drawing. We are reaching the home stretch here. I don't know if I'll get to mention it one more time or not. I think I will, but this is the last promo for this thing that I've been doing. The cabinet's getting pretty full. We only got
Filling that bad boy up.
8 days left from moment of recording, and yeah, it's filling up, and it's bittersweet because it also signifies the end of the season. So hop in there. You guys, we've been reposting some stuff on the Straight Chilling Slack, but I'm also at Andy Gaddis on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. So look it up. Promo, self promo. Did it.
Nice. Look at you go.
Mhm.
Cool. I think the only thing left is to hear a word from our sponsors.
Oh boy.
Gather round, all you ghastly ghouls, and kick off this Halloween season with scary good music and even scarier movies. Monster House Records is a brand new vinyl record retailer specializing in punk rock music and horror movie memorabilia. Located in the heart of Sanford, Florida, they boast a wide array of physical media, including vinyl records, cassette tapes, CDs, VHS, laser disc, and more. You can also find vintage tees, books, and plenty of toys. Come for the music, stay for the chills and thrills at the Monster House Records. Be sure to follow them at Monster House ORL or visit them on their website at monsterhouserecords.com.
Can't believe we have to retire that. That's
Man,
just a
the last
shame.
time. Man.
I
Oh,
love
man.
watching Randy's reaction every week. It doesn't
Randy
get old.
loves
Please.
that shit.
Everyone go to Monster House Records. Give this man money so that he can be on our show every week from now on. This fucking
We can make
show.
more and more ads. for
Support this man. Support this show, or this shop rather, to support this show. Thank you,
Yeah.
Monster House, for letting us.
Yeah, thank you for supporting
some
us
shit for
this
you.
spooky season. It's been awesome playing it for 2 months now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want Dracula himself to give
That's
you all of the lip service you could possibly imagine and then some, please hit us up at straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com for advertising opportunities.
There
Looking
you
at
go.
you,
Yeah.
Athletic Greens. I know what you do. Come get us.
Dracula himself. We got the one, the only. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our house is clean.
This house is clean.
All right, let's get into the main event. We're kicking it off with Sleepy Hollow and starting with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right.
Peace.
So this is Sleepy Hollow from 1999. The back of the box says, set in 1799, Sleepy Hollow is based on Washington Irving's classic tale, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Faithful to the dreamy, custom-bound world that Irving paints in his story, the film mixes horror, fantasy, and romance, and features an extraordinary cast of characters that dabble in the supernatural. Directed by Tim Burton, starring Shaboy Johnny Depp. Rated R for graphic horror violence, gore, scene of sexuality. Whoa.
High consumption.
Man, how many R-rated films has Burton done? Not many.
Not a lot. This.
Yeah. Kind of rare.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll look into that though. That's
Was Dumbo R-rated? I don't know. Maybe.
Probably.
Peanut consumption.
The things
Are
that thing
R-rated.
does with its trunk, I swear.
God in heaven.
Good lord.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but it's a rare turn for them for sure.
Yeah,
For him,
this
rather.
we've all seen this before, right? This isn't a first time watch for any of us.
Oh
No.
no.
It's been some time though, for me.
Yeah,
Juice
This is-
pays it all the lip service every year, but for me, it's
Yeah.
been probably a good 5 to maybe even 10 years that I haven't seen this.
Yeah, it's been a minute for me, but I'd definitely seen it before. Recommendations. Would you? Juice?
Just to go back
Would you
to
fuck the headless horseman?
Yeah, just to go back to Randy's question. So Tim Burton has released 3 R-rated films. Maybe we'll play that for trivia, actually. Maybe I'll hold on to that.
Oh,
hold
well,
on
I
to
just looked it up too.
Oh,
So.
never mind. Randy.
I'll just
Damn it.
drink. It'll be
So
gone
they
in 5
are
minutes.
Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, and Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd. That's a
Sweeney
bloody
Todd
one.
makes sense.
Yeah. And so, yes, I've seen this many times. It's been in my yearly rotation for Halloween for some time now. I don't know exactly how long, but yeah, I've seen this many times, covered it a couple times. And yeah, I would absolutely recommend you check this out, especially for Halloween season. You got 1 week left. If you haven't seen this one before, I think this one will really set the mood for Halloween. So yeah, check it out. And I think it's definitely in the top tier for Tim Burton for me personally. So yeah. I would. Randy, how about you? You've been swaying a little bit on this one. Would you recommend people
Yeah,
check it out now?
So I haven't, like I said, like I've been in the past a little bit like more critical of this movie. It was not one that was super high on my list. I saw it in theaters. I remember feeling like it was like fine. But it didn't leave a mark, and it just didn't really invite me to come back too often. I think that has changed for me. I think that like at that time when it came out, maybe there was a little like Burton mall goth fatigue going on in my late school
Randy
life.
hates those
No
mall
way.
goths.
He
I really
fucking
don't. Among
does.
them, you hate what you are, so that's the mall goth code. I gotta say.
I hate myself.
I don't know. Like I don't know. I was just like, this feels like it's made. It's the same problem I had with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to some degree. Is I was just like not in a place where I could accept that. And that movie has its own problems that are actually like legitimate. The problems I had with this movie were largely aesthetic and just fatigue. For the same reason that if a great superhero movie came out this year, I would be a little bit more inclined to passe it. But maybe in 10 years, when it's not every movie is a superhero movie, I might be more into it. So that's kind of what I think it was, if I had to guess. But the short answer is yes. I would recommend this for Halloween season in particular.
Yeah. All right. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check this out?
Yeah, it's probably more of a light recommend on my part. I think this is more of like a mid-tier Tim Burton movie for me. I don't love it, I don't hate it, but it does have like some good Halloween vibes. So I'd say if you haven't seen it before, now would be a great time to throw it on for sure. And I think this version is preferable to me than like the animated one we just talked about last week. So
yeah.
Throw this one on, I would say. Yeah, sounds like a
Like a butt crane.
Like a butt crane. Pretty solid recommendation, I would say, from the Straight Chilling crew.
Yeah.
Cool.
Firm.
Solid. Just like that nose. Well, let's get into it. We are going to spoil the shit out of Sleepy Hollow, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Juice, you got that plot synopsis this
Boys,
time.
I did my best to make this somewhat succinct and not too long. So here we go. In 1799, New York City police, New York City Police Constable Ichabod Crane is dispatched to Sleepy Hollow, which has been plagued by a series of brutal decapitations. So far, a wealthy father and son and a widow. Ichabod begins his investigation skeptical of the paranormal story of the Headless Horseman, a headless ghost who the townspeople blame for the murders. When a fourth victim is killed, Ichabod takes the victim's son, young Masbeth, under his wing. Ichabod and Masbeth exhume the victims from a tip based on a tip. Learning that the widow died pregnant, Ichabod witnesses the horseman killing the town magistrate shortly after. He, young Masbeth, and Katrina, who is the daughter of the wealthiest man now in town, venture into the western woods, where a witch living in a cave reveals the location of the horseman's grave at the Tree of the Dead. He digs up the horseman's grave and discovers that the skull has been taken. The horseman then kills the village midwife and her family, as well as Katrina's suitor Brom Bones, when he attempts to intervene. Ichabod and Masbeth visit Hardenbrook, who is the town notary, who reveals that the first victim, Peter von Garrett, had secretly married the widow, writing a new will that left his estate to her. Ichabod deduces that all the victims, except for Brom, are linked to this new will, and that the horseman's master is the person who would have otherwise inherited the estate. Baltus, who is... Katrina's father. Okay, here we go. Halfway there. Katrina, upon discovering this accusation, burns the evidence. Hardenbrook commits suicide, and there is a town meeting at the church. Then Baltus bursts into the assembly at the church, announcing that the horseman has killed his wife, Katrina's stepmother. The horseman attacks the church, but is unable to enter. In the chaos, the remaining elders kind of kill each other, and then the horseman is able to harpoon Baltus and ultimately decapitates him. Okay, initially concluding that Katrina controls the Horsemen, Ichabod discovers that her diagram, which he believes summoned the Horsemen, is really one of protection, and additionally finds a post-mortem wound on Lady Von Tassel's body. Lady Von Tassel, alive and well, then reveals herself to Katrina and explains her true heritage from a poor family evicted years ago by Van Garrett, when he favored Baltus and Katrina instead. She swore revenge upon that family and everyone who wronged her, pledging herself to Satan if he would raise the Horsemen to avenge her, and also so she could claim the estate and everything. She then manipulated her way into the Van Tassel household. She used fear, blackmail, and lust to draw the other elders into her plot. She kills everybody. She kills everyone. Ichabod and Masbeth rush to the windmill as the Horseman arrives after an escape that destroys the windmill and the subsequent chase to the Tree of the Dead. Ichabod throws the Horseman's skull to him, freed, and with his head restored, the Horseman spares Katrina and attacks Lady Von Tassel, giving her a bloody kiss and returning to hell with her in tow, fulfilling the deal. His faith restored, Ichabod returns to New York with Katrina and young Masbeth just in time for the new century. I left out all of the stuff about Johnny Depp's mom.
That's fair. You don't really need it.
And
that's
a lot
fair
of
'cause I
other
don't remember
stuff
it, so.
too. Yeah.
Dude,
People's names and what.
My biggest complaint with this movie is like the plot is a little bloated. There's
It is
a
convoluted to shit.
a little much.
Tough.
Yeah.
It could be pared down. This is like they want the mystery to hold until it becomes like a bit of a twist, clearly, and it does that. But it's largely a twist because you're like have no idea what direction to look. It's I don't know, a lot of mystery stories.
Who's related to who, and you're like, oh,
right.
okay, well that's who.
Well,
okay, gets the money.
They do. Everybody has their motivations, but it's tough to keep track of who they are and what their motivations are.
Yeah.
So it's like a wash ultimately.
Kind of.
Yeah, like the faces are recognizable, but their status and their names are not. And
Like,
so, yeah, when they
the
try
names
to
are too similar.
yeah, when they try to set it up as a whodunit type of situation, but then no, it's the Horseman, but then it's like, oh, someone controls the Horseman. So it's kind of a little back and forth. But the weird thing about that to me is I agree. It's very convoluted and legit. As many times as I watch this, I always started off knowing like, yeah, she does it because she was poor and she was thrown out of her house. But ultimately, like anytime they like start talking about stuff, I'm always like, oh, what the widow and the baby and it does. But the crazy thing about it is one of the things is last week we were critiquing the cartoon, and so I was interested to look into what the book was actually based on, because we were like, oh, I feel like there should be some more richness to this character or something. But the book pretty much plays out a lot like the cartoon does, where Ichabod's kind of a scummy guy. He's competing with Brom for Katrina, and then it ultimately ends still on that kind of ambiguous note of, did Brom do it? Is Ichabod alive? Is he dead? It's kind of like this more ghost story. And really the only thing I saw that was really kind of different about it or deeper was that this town was more supernatural. Like the Headless Horseman was just one tale that everybody told in this town, and they were used to like witches in the woods and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I got it, it is bloated to shit and it doesn't make a lot of sense a lot of the time, but they did a good job of making it more interesting and suitable for film, I think, than what it was.
Sounds
well,
like
they definitely made it more updated and gave it a modern spin, certainly. Like it sounds like it's pretty unrelated to what was written originally. And, ultimately that's fine, because I don't know how you necessarily fill up a whole movie with that and maintain the pacing and the sort of like action scenes and all that stuff that Tim Burton's clearly going for here and he's using. So like, I don't know, it props those things up. And the thing about Burton that I've realized in doing this whole affair for this year is like his aesthetics, they can help you forgive a lot. He's got such a unique visual style, and like even like his associations with Elfman and things like that, they bring such a unique flavor to things that makes it so singular that even if he's telling a story you've heard 100 times, it feels unique anyway. And I think that's partly what's going on here.
Yeah, and he always has a baller cast to rely on too. Like he's got his stable of players that he calls upon. Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, Christopher Lee being in the beginning of this as a judge. Completely forgot he was in it. I wish he was in it more than he was, but that was kind of a nice little cameo for him. Christopher
have
Walken is the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
Like he always gets baller people in his movies, and that definitely
Yeah,
helps.
Dumbledore and fucking Ferris Bueller's principal on the same set.
Yeah,
That's pretty fun. Juice, you okay?
I think Randy needs to like reset his mic or something. It's like warbly. It's not cutting out. It's not like it's just like it's got this sound to it. It just started in like the past like 2 minutes.
Is it? Hold on. Tell me if it stops now. Hold on. Do you notice anything now? Is it different?
You gotta talk a little bit. Talk.
Talking, saying some stuff, testing, good.
I think you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's my
Oh,
fan.
that sounds fine to me.
Fan going.
Oh, okay. Because it
room.
was like warbly. Yeah, it was like.
I'll try
I
to
was
stop
like,
it, but it's kind of warm down here, so I kind of need it.
I see.
Pop that shirt off, buddy. Let it
Yeah.
breathe.
Whoa.
Yeah, let's
I know you got
let's
no
just let them
draws on.
tibbies fly.
All right.
All right. I'll try and like focus it somewhere besides directly at the
If
mic,
I notice
though.
it again, I'll try to like do a signal so we don't have
Here.
to stop every time or something because I know we're on a
Fans.
All right.
like this.
Fan
Look for
signal.
this signal.
Yeah, that's a great signal. Love it. All right.
right.
Pick up where do you want to pick up?
Yeah, or you're talking about the style and the people he's got in it and stuff like that. So anything like that.
Mhm.
Okay.
I said Ferris Bueller's, all that shit. So we can,
Mhm.
I guess, pick up there.
I'll pick up with the aesthetic. How about that?
Good with me.
Yeah, the style is one thing that really just makes me want to watch this every Halloween because I mean they start off, you got the scarecrow at the beginning. I mean, from the very beginning, it's bringing the spooky vibes. It's bringing his aesthetic where it's, you know, you're sucking almost all the color out, but then the pops of color that you do have are these awesome jack-o'-lanterns or something like that, you know, the kind of fall colors. And
Pumpkins.
yeah, it looks fantastic. And it really just, it looks cool and autumny, like cool, like temperature wise, and just this quaint little town. I think he brings it to life in this kind of beautiful way. And so a lot of this movie is about the kind of feeling I get from it, not necessarily, you know, at this point, obviously it would be terrible as a whodunit because I've seen it so many times, but it's like coming back to this aesthetic. It's almost like decorating my house for Halloween. You know, it really kind of like sets me in that space, and it's got some fun action. It's got some gore, but it's not so over the top. It's kind of that balance between fun Halloween gore, you know. It's not like fucking Hostel or anything like that, you know. So you know,
it doesn't revel in it. No.
Yeah, he's like chopping into a tree and the tree is bleeding and it spurts on him.
I love
and stuff
that
like
tree.
that. Yeah, I love
It's
it.
like the best set piece in the movie.
Yeah.
I'll say this about the aesthetics to one piece to its detriment is that it kind of falls into that like overly color graded thing that was happening at that time for a long time. And I just don't like, it's overly blue for a lot of the movie. And I feel like it would maximize what I like about this movie if it had a lot more scenes that were like true, like autumn oranges and yellows and things like that. Like I could have used a little bit broader of a color palette for this movie for at least the times where we're not being haunted. You know, I understand that it's a beset town and it's supposed to be like the kind of gloomy or whatever, but I don't know, like aesthetics wise, if I'm leaning on that this heavily, I kind of want a little bit more of that orange festiveness.
Yeah, like a cornfield or a pumpkin patch or just some, you know, full foliage, you know, little
it's
stuff
a little
here and
too
there.
close to the witch, but it doesn't have like the stuff under the hood that the witch has.
That's true.
And
It almost
it's a little overly blue still.
It would be cool, honestly, if he was like, if he showed maybe more traveling scenes, because you do get that scene where the guy's running away. He runs through the pumpkin patch. You have the scarecrow with the pumpkin and stuff like that. It almost would be kind of cool if you showed a few more scenes of Ichabod maybe traveling into town, and it does have that color aesthetic. And then you get into the town and he goes to his like zap everything out almost, you know, black. That would be pretty cool. Yeah. That would have been cool.
Yeah. What if somebody lives a town over and he has to make a trip over to whatever, Johnstown or whatever
Christmas
next door?
town.
And Yeah,
Whoa,
Christmas
whoa.
Town. Why not? It's not like it hasn't been done.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just wish there was a little
Yeah.
bit more of that in the mix, because it really does kind of like keep things on a very similar visual plane for the bulk of the movie. I just
Mhm.
want a little bit of contrast going on.
Yeah. I love the color of the blood. It's like really, really deep, and when it spatters on Johnny Depp's face as he cuts into the tree, it's like a really kind of jarring scene. You're like, oh my god, the color! You know, it kind of hits him in the face and
The
hits the audience in
colors
the
do.
face. I think like some of the stuff they added to the lore of the Headless Horseman in this movie is really cool. The idea of his blade being like super hot and cauterizing wounds immediately, I like that. I like that, you know, his skull was taken, and that's why he comes back, and like they give him his head, and it like grows the flesh back all around it, which is like maybe a little goofy, but I like that
I don't know. I
idea
like
quite a
that
bit.
effect.
Yeah,
It doesn't age perfectly, but for the cadence of this movie, I feel like it works great. Like
yeah,
this is like there's a little bit of hokiness in the mix with all of Tim Burton's stuff for the most part, even this R-rated thing. And it's like the right level of hokiness. I wish it was more of a practical thing, because that sort of
Me
leans
too.
in more, because it's sort of that old Hollywood stuff that we'll talk about later with other movies on tonight. But for what it was, for how old it is, and for how they accomplished it, it still looks pretty decent. And the rough edges, I think I can forgive a little bit for that reason.
That's another big
Yeah.
thing I'm willing to forgive the story with, is because the way that he balances these tones, and I think he makes a lot of choices that we've said in like some other films kind of recently, even about like even bringing in Masbeth and making it a kid. You know, it gives it this kind of younger perspective. It does have these moments of little comedy and stuff, you know, when he's cutting in, when he puts on the headset and it's got all these crazy little pieces, when he's like pretending to ride the horse and, you know, reenacting the murder and stuff like that. It's not a comedy, but it's got these touches of lightheartedness and fun amongst this.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's got, and that's some fun action too. You know, the fight scene with Brahm, and then I love the church scene. There's a lot of, you know, frantic action going on there and stuff like that. And then, you know, the big windmill scene. So there's these like moments of action and comedy and spooky goodness, and he blends it all in a way that feels like pretty natural to me. Like it doesn't feel heavy-handed or forced in any kind of way. So yeah, it really, again, forgives a lot of like the story.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like the tree being filled with the heads that he takes too.
That's
That's
cool,
kind of
yeah.
a neat image.
Yeah.
Just the way it
and
opens up or whatever, that's a really great effect still, I think.
Yeah, the windmill set piece is pretty cool too. And it, I guess Burton's got a thing for windmills, because there's like two big windmill climaxes we're going to talk about tonight.
Oh,
Well, it's
yeah.
Dutch. Well, it's Dutch too, and I think it's just like kind of I like that kind of, because it is a Dutch town, and so it's relevant, but it also kind of harkens back to some of the Gothic horror. You know, we were talking about this being like Americana, and the kind of like gradient blending of that. It's like obviously you don't have these old castles and these buildings, so but what actually makes sense, what's practical, and what kind of ties it to the people and the folklore that this comes from. Oh, it's the windmill and stuff. And so yeah, I like that as a set piece. It does come up later tonight again, but again, it's kind of relevant to what's going on there as well. So yeah, I like it.
So the big tower, you got a windmill,
right?
Yeah.
Contextually, like he's using them correctly. It's just a little weird that he reuses it, but I think that's somebody with this amount of sway and this number of movies that he has this much sway in. I think you're bound to see some repeat stuff. We see repeat stuff in like all kinds of film. Like look at Scorsese's work. He does great work and continue to do great work, but there's a lot of reckoning or a lot of similarities between
he makes
his
the
current
same
stuff, his old
movie
stuff, whatever,
over and over
Yeah.
again.
He just like finds a new angle on it, finds a new way of doing it, and makes it feel enough unique to make it work. And that's what Burton's doing. So like good on him for that, I think. Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's a little bit of, it's just a little strange, like on its face, like, oh, he's like multiple movies from this one triple feature have ended in a very similar tableau. It's just a little strange if you don't think about it that way.
Well, I like to other aesthetic pieces that he uses to talk about how it kind of fits in with the time. I love the scene where the kid is in his room and he has that little spinning lantern and it's got the witches on it, and it like puts the reflections on the wall, or what, not reflections, or what, like the shadows or what, on the wall. That's really cool. Just it doesn't do anything other than just set this aesthetic set piece for what might be probable for the time, maybe, but it's cool. I like those little touches. It really brings a lot of feeling to the film for me. So yeah.
I agree.
I'll say this,
Brandon?
like, as far as like the performances go, everybody's kind of like either chewing up the scenery or not making much of an impact. And as much as I love Christina Ricci, I'm not getting a lot out of her in this one. It's kind of hard for me to understand where she's coming from a lot of time, even though when I look back on it, it's pretty basic what she what her whole deal is.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a whole lot of like deep thinking that needs to go into it. And I don't know if that's a portrayal issue. I don't know if that's a writing issue. My inclination is to think it's writing, because I've seen her doing fabulous things in other movies. And we've already talked about how this is a little bit of convoluted plot. So I just think that it makes it hard for me to like focus on what she's doing or why she cares about Ichabod at some points and things like that. Like, what, I don't know. It's just a little bit hard for me to follow her specifically, and she's such a pivotal character in this movie that it makes the focus that much harder overall.
That's one thing, and I have to kind of like I'm gonna go a little kind of soft on it, forgive it a little bit in some fashions because of what we brought up before. But I will mention too that there are I'll mention in trivia, there are some scenes that were cut that might have made some of this make a little bit more sense and how they were connecting things. I think they're kind of right to cut it because this doesn't need to be longer. We don't need more story, but it might have made some things make more sense, and other characters might have been fleshed out a little bit more and things like that.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is that what they could have done, kind of my main point was they the Johnny Depp's mom things going on. I get what they're trying to do, because as we said last time, Ichabod Crane in the original story, he's a dog. He's not a character you want to follow. And so when you're trying to
simply evil.
Yeah, when you're trying to rewrite this and give you a character that you want to follow along with, give you a kind of hero-esque character, then you need to do something. So I understand the idea of like he's a very practical man and where he came
man
from,
of science,
and his
not religion.
scars. Yeah. So
And
not superstition, and and finding that balance between them and falling in love with a woman who is like very superstitious and more kind of religious in a way. And yeah, but like the scenes, I never really like those scenes. They just feel kind of forced, to be honest. They I don't know, they don't feel smooth to me.
Yeah, it's a little jarring.
Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. The dream sequences are just a little jarring, and they don't seem to fit the vibe of this movie. But
they're like cherry blossoms. They switch the kind of aesthetic, and it's even more pale.
It's just hard to parse is the issue I have with it. Like, I understand wanting to add depth to your main character. I mean, that makes perfect sense. But like in abs, like you said, you don't want this to be much longer, and they're still treating all these other characters like full characters, even though we don't see some of that connective tissue. And then when you get to depth, it's like all that is kind of like jumbling up a little bit. I honest to God, like I had a hard time understanding if this was a memory, if this is just a dream, if this is a premonition of somebody else. It took me some figuring out to even know who I'm looking at. And like that's bound to happen at some point or another, but that happens a lot in this movie. It happens through multiple flashbacks. I'm like, wait, was I right the first time? And I don't remember the exact specifics of what like threw me, but like there's a lot of little things, little details that don't need to be there that are throwing me in these things. And I feel like if they approach this a different way, it could have been avoided. It could have been a couple lines of dialogue about his mother. It could have been a couple and I don't know, all that together. The main reason I was able to really follow this lead character and understand where he's coming from is because it's largely the same stand-in character that Tim Burton writes in all of his movies. He's the somewhat naive, outsider who prioritizes higher levels of thinking and science and those sorts of things, and has a hard time grappling with other things. Also has a hard time socially. Like he's an outsider, a brilliant outsider. That's the trope that Tim plays with. So I kind of just kind of knew where I was with him from the start.
Yeah,
brilliant. So like his father in the dream sequences, eventually, if I recall correctly, his father basically kills his mom because she's dabbling in some like pagan type stuff. So like in order to save her soul, he like kills her, and I guess maybe that's what turned him off religion and maybe more towards science and whatnot. Like I don't know if you need all that necessarily.
Yeah, it's just a little too convenient, and also it's a little confusing and convoluted in some aspects, because I guess in some ways both of his parents are somewhat religious. It's just his dad is super Christian and his mom is like kind of leaning into like pagan witchery kind of stuff. And then he comes to this town and they're kind of the same way, which is an interesting aspect to pull from. I like that he pulls from these towns and these areas of like they're supernatural, because we don't get it necessarily as much in America anymore, maybe in some like more rural remote places, but still in Korea there's this kind of balance between like old kind of rituals that you do, or old traditional things that are based in like picking out roots and all these things, but then people will be like, oh, I'm a Christian, and so like that balance between pagan symbols and stuff like that and being like, oh, Jesus Christ, so I like the idea of it, but yeah, it's just not smoothly done, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's a Rocky movie ultimately is what I come down to. I don't know I don't want to pre-wrap it up though.
Well, no, so for this, a lot of it comes down to the aesthetic and the feeling, and there's like some really great scenes that I love. And again, it comes back to these beats of being able to hit like some comment. What gets me through this convoluted story where they like hang a lot of their hat on a little bit, but it's just like is those beats. Like I said, he's telling this tale, but he's acting really goofy. He's acting like he's riding a horse. He puts on this crazy headpiece or whatever. He's talking about his instruments, or then like you get this fight scene with Brahm, which again I thought was cool, this balance of action going on here. Again, I think my absolute favorite scene is the church scene. There's just like so much shit going on, and the way that the headless horseman is like not able to come into the church, it kind of goes back to old traditional kind of folklore stuff going on with Christianity. And he spears him through the thing and rips him through the window and like cuts his head off, because it seems very violent and gory, but it's not. And it just feels like the perfect balance of everything for me to kind of get those scenes to that heightened level. And I don't know, it's very like well crafted in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. That church scene is badass. I kind of wish they had more big set pieces like that and a little less like, you got to find out who, is stabbing who in the back and who's actually related to who and who was killed. And
a
little more action, I guess. But yeah, that church scene's great.
I'm kind of two minds about it, because like on one hand, I do like those action scenes, and I do think that some of the plot is over bloated, but I think there's a way to tell this story with maybe a little bit pared down plot and still kind of like maintaining the same balance of action to like, investigative stuff going on. That is interesting enough. That is everything okay?
Zoom just announced that it changed my microphone for some reason.
Oh.
Let me test this again. Hello.
Sounds right to me.
Tap it.
I don't hear that, but there's a windscreen on it, so tap it.
Tap.
I think that's the right mic.
I can't. Can you just actually tap it?
Oh, well, sometimes Zoom like cuts that out.
Yeah, I don't hear that
Not
at all.
hearing that. Yeah.
Because your other microphone is also right by your face, right? So like I can't.
I don't hear you at all.
Whisper.
Wait.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. We can hear you.
Whisper.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That was okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
What was I saying?
like the sound gate that it has on this and shit. It's like, I don't know what fucking Zoom. It's just like, dude, I don't know. It drives
For me,
fucking
it does that
crazy.
occasionally because the jack on the bottom of my microphone comes
Yeah,
loose.
maybe
It's
it could
weird.
have. Yeah, okay.
So it
jacked.
defaults to the next thing. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
getting jacked.
Get
All right, what was I
jacked
saying?
up.
You were saying like you think that there is a way to tell
Right.
that.
Okay. So yeah, let me.
Sorry.
You good, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just feel like there's a way to sort of include that mystery and that investigation stuff to where it is not so bloated or overdone or anything to where it is additive rather than subtractive. Because right now, that's the biggest subtraction to the movie for me is it presents a mystery. It clearly like wants you to follow along with that mystery, but it's hard to do so because the writing is over bloated, I think, or is not connecting well enough. They need to trim everything down before they put it on film so that they're not trimming out things that explain other things. And then
Tell 'em,
all of a
Randy.
sudden, all that aesthetic suddenly like amps up times a billion. I
Mm-hmm.
think that honestly, if it wasn't for this being like a good Halloween movie, like
Mm-hmm.
that helps me forgive a lot. A good Halloween aesthetic
Uh-huh.
and a really unique aesthetic like Tim Burton's just accelerates that, and that's what makes this a better movie than I remember it being and one worth rewatching.
Yeah.
And
Not
you-
really anything else.
Your boy Tim Burton just got clocked by Randy.
Sure, yeah. Look, I'm gonna tell this world famous director about his aesthetic, and he's gonna listen. He's gonna hear me.
He will if he knows what's good for him. Tim Burton. Yeah, cool. Any other major points you guys want to touch on? It sounds like we're kind of wrapping it up.
Yeah.
What did y'all think? I've always kind of gone back and forth on this. What did y'all think about Walken as the headless horseman?
It's a lot, man. I don't like his teeth. I wish
The
they hadn't done
teeth
that.
are,
Yeah.
I really like the teeth. I think it's fun. Yeah, I like the, I don't know. I like Walken. I think the whole thing works really nicely. Like he's a bit of a scary presence as an actor. Like he gives off a scary presence. I think it's a perfectly reasonable choice to make. It's a little distracting just because he is such a celebrity, but so is like half the cast of this movie.
Sure,
I'm just not too bothered by that. And I do like the pointed teeth. Excuse me. Maybe that's partially because I was such a fan of like the idea of people in that era like filing down their teeth to points. I remember hearing about that in like Gangs of New York. That was a big thing. One of their characters in that did that. And I was like I was like, oh man, that's so fucking hardcore. Back when like dentistry was nothing, basically. If dentistry was
that is
like,
hardcore.
Yeah, like you have to really want to murder people with your mouth to do that. It's pretty rad.
Yeah, that's a good call. Gangs of New York, because maybe that was more of a cultural thing at the time. I'm glad to hear
I don't
you
know
be
if that
positive.
it was, but,
it might not be, but I'm glad to hear you be positive because I'm always on the fence because it's that thing where is it too campy? Is it too over the top? I'm kind of having fun, but I'm also kind of being like, yeah. Also, to go back to that, one thing I do really like. So there's a couple scenes where I'm always kind of on the fence about the Christopher Walken with the teeth, especially when he's looking down at her and when he's acting so over the like rah rah, he's fighting people off. That one, the witch scene where her face goes crazy and shit like that.
Yeah.
But then there's another one that's very similar that I absolutely love, and I'm glad it's in there. And it's the one where they reenact the prank that Brom plays.
Oh yeah, that is
jack-o'-lantern is soaring through.
That's one of the best scenes.
Yeah. So I'm always kind of on that fence about it of like this is campy, this is a little silly, but it's so fun to me. So I'm glad to hear Randy
campy is the right
positive.
Campy's the right tone for a Tim Burton horror. Like, I mean, I know he's going for a more R-rated horror. That's clearly what he wants. It wants it to be just a little bit more adult, not have to worry about pleasing the kids so much. And he gets that, but like it's still Tim Burton's flavor, and his flavor is like it's like goopy, gross candy. It's like like I don't know, like at its best, at its absolute best, it's got like some really like moving things that happen at his best work, but like when he's just like banging it through and like making his movie or whatever, when it's doing well and not like touching emotions so much. it is a campy affair. It brings the campiness and makes it at its best emotional, at least entertaining. I mean, Edgar Wright does similar things. Like there's a lot of my favorite directors will play with campiness, and I like that. It's just that like if you're doing it, it has to be consistent with the rest of your work that you're doing on that project. And it is consistent to me. Like there's nothing about this movie that makes me want to take it super seriously.
Yeah, not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut off your head and stick it in my tree.
Well, that's another thing. If they had let him talk too much, it might have been a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better to just have him, I guess, growl or whatever.
Just be a menacing, like toothy motherfucker. Like it's great.
Extra teeth, right, Bob?
Dude, that boy's got some teeth. Yeah, cool. But yeah, let's go ahead and rate it. Let's go ahead and do it. Out of 5, Juice. This is your movie. This is the one you're leading. How do you feel? Kick us off.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go down since I've talked about. I'm gonna go down kind of my list that I made of the positives and negatives. The kid's voice with the haunting music is great at the beginning, like the opening kind of credit music. Again, Elfmang. Oh, I think Elfmang does a great job here. We didn't really talk about Elfmang, but it's not as iconic, as some as the other ones, but still really great music going on here. Opening scene with the carriage rolling and the misty nights. You can't beat these aesthetics for Halloween in some ways. I love it. So oh, Randy, your text.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was trying to figure out what you're talking about. That's
not related to anything we need to talk about now. Sorry.
Just because I had my phone up, I was like, and then sorry, Bob.
No, I just saw something Bob texted before the show and I was responding. Bad timing.
Continue.
Yes.
The jack-o'-lantern scarecrow, fantastic. Christopher Lee, I do wish he was in this more, but it's awesome to see him at the beginning. I think he does good with just this tiny little bit. One thing that I do like here is, we see Johnny Depp a lot more in Tim Burton films, and both of them kind of go off the rails in a similar, they go off the rails together, I guess, but one thing I like is this is Johnny Depp, the reserved acting. This is not Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Let me try something really over the top and crazy. I like this more reserved. The character's supposed to be more reserved, but I like this kind of more reserved Johnny Depp acting. I think once he hit Pirates and it became this big thing to have, Jack Sparrow, and he went way over the top. I think he just kept doing those kind of things. Like, let me just go way over the top. I got to make these iconic characters every time. And I like it more pared down. It's much better in my opinion. I love the little village design. I love the harvest festival feast thing that they're got going on. Fantastic. Lots of Harry Potter squad here. Gotta love that. Walking, love it. Him just going over the top fighting these bitches. Love the prank scene, throwback to the cartoon. The cherry blossoms, weird for this aesthetic when I get that they switch in. That's kind of the dream sequence. It's just weird and it's too pale. He somehow goes paler. He goes even paler. I don't know. Story way too convoluted. The tree is amazing. Love how it bleeds. Love the lantern that spins. Love the church scene. Love the windmill scene. Yeah, what this comes down to is I only watch this for Halloween. I watch it to get me in the mood for it, but I do think it's perfect for that. I love it for that, and a lot of the feelings and aesthetics that it gives mask a lot of the obvious problems that it has, mostly in the form of the story. The acting is fine. It's not amazing, but it doesn't bother me in any kind of way. Overall, I really like this movie, and I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5 from Juice. Not bad, man. Damn.
Rob, out of 5, Sleepy Hollow. What you giving it?
I mostly dig the vibe of this. If you don't get too bogged down in the plot and just kind of let it wash over you, I think you'll probably have a bit of a better time with it. The scenes with the Headless Horseman are great. That spooky scarecrow at the beginning is great. The flaming jack-o'-lantern in it is fantastic. The church, the tree, the added lore to the Headless Horseman, all that's great. The score is great. I think it overall is just too bloated and it feels too long. I wish they would pare down the plot a little bit and maybe throw in another, I don't know, like 1 or 2 action sequences just to kind of like fluff it up a little more. And I think I'd probably get more enjoyment out of it. I don't think it's a bad movie at all, though. It's far from Tim Burton's worst movie, and it does like kind of deliver on the Halloween vibe. So I think it's something worth checking out around Halloween time for sure. So I'm gonna come in with a 3 out of 5 on this one. I think. Randeezy, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I like this movie. We talked about this, like about how like I kind of had a change of heart on this, but it's not a complete change of heart. I largely have some of the same problems that you guys mentioned. I feel like the biggest thing this movie has a problem with is just having too much plot in the way of the story, as Joe Bob would say, just too much going on, and not the characters aren't defined well enough to really support that, and the performances by and large are fine, but they're like it's just hard to keep track of who's doing what, who wants what, and like that's fine for if you're just doing a straight mystery, but this is also an action horror movie. It just kind of tries to do too many things maybe, and it needs to like focus in a little bit. I do think that the aesthetic is strong, and it's like that's the main thing that makes me want to forgive a lot of the sins of this movie. But even within that, like I said earlier, this is like reaching the point in Burton's career where he was starting to be overly reliant on CG and like special effects and things like that to do like really like large scale conceptual things. Like he did a lot of like conceptual things in like Beetlejuice or whatever, but it was all practically done, so it all happened in a room, and it felt like you were in a room watching this happen. There are parts of this movie where it feels like more like a Fast and the Furious movie than it does like Beetlejuice, and I think that's where it falls off for me. That's probably what turned me off to it in the first place, is like a little too much of that. And I just don't love that as much. I think that if this movie didn't have these strong spooky vibes and didn't have enough of that Tim Burton vibe, that it wouldn't be a movie I would want to go back to at all. I think it really relies on those things. So with that in mind, I think for me, overall, I like this movie. I would rewatch it. I don't think I would ever watch it outside of the season. So for me, that puts it right with Bob's, I think, at about a 3. It's better than medium, but it's nowhere near piping hot for me.
Cool. With Randy's 3, that's going to put our aggregate at a 3.3 repeating, of course. Let's go ahead and jump over into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about Sleepy Hollow.
Juice, why don't you handle this one?
All right, so we're going to play Rotten Tomatoes. We're each going to handle our own movies. I'm taking care of all Sleepy Hollow today. So again, this is released in 1999, horror, hour and 45 minutes. Out of the critics we have 126. So starting with the critics, I'll let Randy go first. Randu, what do you think?
Ooh, time for me to really earn my keep. 126, you said?
Yep.
I mean, it's always a guess, I'm sure, but let's say I feel like the time this came out, people probably did have a little Burton fatigue. I don't know that was just me, but it might have been. I'm just going to go with that as my marching order here, and I'm going to say 70%.
Okay. Robert?
I think that's a fair guess. I don't think this is going to be a critical darling necessarily. I don't know that Tim Burton often is, really. But I don't think they're going to hate it. I'll take the under on this one with a 69, please.
Whoa, well, boys.
Wow.
We do have a ringy ding. So.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
is it
boy.
the fun ringy ding or is it the boring ringy dingy?
Bob, give it up for Randu. The answer 70. Ringy ding Randu.
You dog setting me up. Bob, you lost.
All right. Good for me. I am validating my existence as the Rotten Tomatoes guy.
The
Need your
Game Master Randy.
You need your
Hey.
spring sound, Randy.
Oh, I don't have that.
Keep that tongue in your mouth, Juice. Damn. Oh
Um,
my God.
All right, let's go over to the audience score. This was back in the day, so we have over 250,000 ratings clocking in here. Bob, you get a chance at the bite of the apple first.
Give me that apple. I'm bobbing for it.
Yeah, you are.
This is
So right.
probably higher than the critics. Maybe. Folks seem to like Tim Burton, you know.
Well,
They seem to be.
You're really
about
thinking
him.
like a movie executive now. Yeah, let's give him $25 billion to make a Dumbo recreation.
25 billion. I'll go a little higher on this one, I guess, with 75. Take 75.
75 and Randu.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that a lot of people feel the way Justin does about this, even if it's not like everyone's favorite. I don't think I'd be shocked if it was more than a handful of people's favorite Burton movie, even. But seasonally speaking, there's been a lot of time for this one to kind of grow in its cult status, or at least among the people who like it. What'd you say, Bob? 75? I'll do the over. I'll do 76.
Okay. Whoa, we got some $1 boys over here. Well, I was hoping for a double.
That's what they call me.
I was hoping for a ringy ding, but unfortunately this time we didn't get it. But Randu is going to sweep the board. It is 80% right. Man of the people, Soju over here.
Randy won the game, but the real winner is Justin, and he wants everybody to know that.
I'm just
even
saying,
when
man,
Justin
people,
loses,
but
Justin's the winner.
I'm always winning, baby. But Randu, congratulations, sweeping the board.
Yeah, you know.
Good job, Randy. Better job, Justin. All right.
But overall, best job. So
way to read those
all
numbers,
right.
guy. You really got that.
Nailed it.
All right. Well, we got a little bit of trivia. Oh, well, hang on. I forgot about the critic consensus. The critic consensus is it isn't Tim Burton's best work. Debatable. But Sleepy Hollow entertains with its stunning visuals and creepy atmosphere.
All right. Wait a minute. Are you suggesting that this is his best film?
No, actually, I don't think it is. I was just throwing some shit.
That was about to be the rest of the episode.
That's not the
So
cool.
yes, now should we get into some trivia?
Let's get into some trivia.
Let's do it.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right, so I thought this was cool, like a little added folklore. In the opening scene featuring Van Garrett's murder, the coach driver briefly drives while he is headless. This could be an allusion to the Irish legend of Dullahan, a harbinger of death that is seen as a headless coachman whose stopping brings death to those that see it. Van Garrett dies moments after seeing the coachman. So
cool.
Maybe that's, like I said, in the book, there's supposed to be some other kind of supernatural aspects of this town. You know, everybody's kind of scared of something, or they're all superstitious about. So maybe that is mentioned, and he threw that in there. I'm not sure.
That's
but
badass. I like
it is
that.
pretty cool. Yeah.
It reminds me that I don't know if this was like a. Do you guys did either of you guys watch Buster Scruggs, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs,
I
the
did
Coen Brothers movie?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, I just won't bring it up because I think it might be spoilery. Go ahead.
Okay.
In order to escape the headless horseman, Ichabod sets fire to the windmill. Instead of simply burning down, the windmill explodes in a huge fireball.
Yeah.
This is actually
Fast and the
real,
Furious.
though. This is actually real. So this would be due to a dust explosion, which is when a fine powder suspended in the air like flour is ignited. And actually, in fact, flour, it is more combustible pound for pound than gunpowder. And that actually is something that you have to take extreme precautions against if you deal with storing a large amount of flour and stuff like that. So it's like,
why don't people use flour for guns then?
dude, I don't know. Maybe it's
too
more
effective.
efficient.
We ain't scientists.
So
I think that's
anyways,
clear.
so yeah, so it says in the US alone, there have been nearly 100 people killed as the result of dust explosions in flour mills. So there you go.
Damn, dude.
In the last month alone. No, just
Yeah, it's an epidemic.
um
The kids are calling it windmilling, and it's sweeping the nation.
God. Okay. One of the scenes I was kind of referencing earlier about being cut out was the role of the Witch of the Western Woods was originally much larger than in the finished movie. There was some extra dialogue where where I guess Ichabod and Katrina talk about it more. Ichabod actually finds her beheaded body, and there's some clues about the necklace she was wearing, and then he notices that her wound is not like the fire cauterized or anything, so he's like, oh, a human did this. So there's more deducing going on and stuff like that. So that's one of the scenes where I guess there's more kind of clue stuff going on.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Yes. Now the body count in this, I want you boys to try to guess. What do you think the body count in this is?
On screen?
I guess it just says body count.
Okay,
Blah,
all right,
blah, blah.
body count.
So, whenever you're ready, anyone can go first.
I'll say 8.
Okay, Bob.
I'll say 10.
Redemption for Bob, not a
Oh,
ding-a-ling,
wow.
but it says body count 19.
19.
Well, also too, not necessarily all the headless horsemen, because the servant girl is killed in the church. That one dude is killed. They hit him in the head with the cross. If you count, maybe they're counting the baby. I don't know. The kid, the family of 3. We didn't also talk about that kid getting killed. They do it off screen, but that was pretty intense. Yeah,
That's fucked up.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess 19. Yeah.
Big old doinks. You know what they say.
Yeah,
2 more. Tim Borton.
Tim Borton.
Borton.
I said Borton.
My boy.
So I said to my boy Time Borton. I said, "What's up, Time?"
Time Borton stated in the DVD commentary that he dislikes it when children are always spared from danger in horror movies, which is not the case in this movie. Yeah, one victim is beheaded while it's in its mother's womb, and a young boy is dragged out of the cellar by the horsemen and is beheaded, even though it's off screen. Finally, the scarecrow at the beginning, when Van Garrett gets beheaded, is the opening pumpkin and scarecrow from The Nightmare Before Christmas from 1993, which Time Borton wrote.
My boy Borton.
My boy Time.
This is my son. His name's Time.
Never
Time
enough
Borton.
Never enough Time Borton.
Oh boy.
Wow.
All right. Well, I'm done with hosting.
See you fuckers next year.
Peace out.
Cool.
But no, yeah. Let's head into the next movie.
Yeah. Movie number 2, we're talking about Frankenweenie, and we are kicking it off at the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
On the back
you got
of
this
the
box. You got all these boxes.
I got all the boxes.
You're a box
baby.
boy.
You have
I'm a
all
box
the
boy.
Tim Burton boxes, Time Borton boxes, Bob.
I got that Borton
There's
box
always
set.
time for Borton.
It's great. Frankenweenie from 2012. This one is rated PG. It's kid friendly. With a run time of 1 hour and 27 minutes. Nice and tight. Not even a full 90. Directed by Time Borton. Written by your boy Borton, John August, and Leonard Rips. Starring Winona Ryder. Again, Catherine O'Hara. Martin Short is also in this. A whole host of other wonderful, talented folks. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. When a boy's beloved dog possesses a Oh, I'm killing it.
When a boy's body named Time
Well,
Borden. We're killing it.
Well,
I
the
love Tim
consensus.
Hortons. It's very good.
Hey, it's 8 a.m. for me. What's your excuse?
Let's wind that one back. When a boy's beloved dog passes away suddenly, he attempts to bring the animal back to life through a powerful science experiment. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randeezy, kick us off.
I had not seen this movie. This was a first time watch for me. I was always a little on the fence about it. You know, I like animated stuff, I like horror stuff, but I don't know. When this movie came out, it was like kind of very much in the thick of Tim's Time's downfall. And in terms of like public response to his movies. And so I was always a little trepidatious about it. I didn't not want to see it. I just never cared to actually press play on it. What would I recommend? I would recommend specifically if you have kids largely that want to get into spooky stuff. It's a nice soft way in for spooky stuff for kids. I think that's definitely where my primary recommendation comes. I would also recommend for animation dorks. Not a super strong recommend otherwise, but I would not discourage anyone from watching it either.
All right, Juice, what about you?
So very much like Randy, I did my first watch last year. And I was thinking the same thing. I mean, it was in the middle of when Tim Burton was doing a bunch of remakes. You have your Alice in Wonderlands, your Charlie and the Chocolate Factories, your Dark Shadows, nothing original, hadn't been good for a while, almost just kind of like a parody of himself in some ways, you know, just so I skipped out on it. And so I watched it last year. And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. You know, I think my expectations were super low. And so going into that, I thought like, oh, wow, you know, and it kind of went back to his old stuff. Again, not as maybe as good as or potent as the original, because we've seen some of this themes and characters before. But I was pleasantly surprised that in the midst of all that like kind of crap he was making, that this kind of got made and it was solid. So yeah, I echo Randy that I think this is really great for kids. In its just the overall package. I like just some of the things that they're referencing and the style of it being black and white and stuff. So I think that that's really great. It's a great gateway horror for kids, and it's a light, you know, spooky season watch as well. I think this is another good one that's like fun for Halloween, you know, if you want to throw something light on. So yeah, recommend it for that. Bob, how about you? Had you ever seen this before?
You kids like gateways? You want some gateways, kids?
Yeah, that's what the kids are all asking for these days.
Yeah, like you, I think first time I watched this was last year. It wasn't like a priority by any means. Yeah.
I didn't know everyone here was fresh to it. Like,
Sounds like it. Certified fresh to death. But yeah, I like it overall. I think the style is really cool. Obviously, it's pulling a lot from Frankenstein. It's got a lot of like silliness to it, and there's not just like one reanimated Franken dog. There's a whole host of creatures in this that are like kind of fun. It's a great short, kind of straight ahead thing. I don't know that it's really bringing anything too new to the table, but it would be a really cool way to introduce some younger folks to not just Frankenstein, but even like some like kaiju lore and stuff like this. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's a fun watch, and I would overall recommend it. Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Decent recommendation, I'd say, across the board again from the Straight Chilling crew.
Well, I enjoy going to the weenie roast very much.
Ooh. We are going to spoil Frankenweenie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, do you have this plot synopsis?
I got it. I got it right here.
I might get some coffee while you're talking.
Well, I'll wait till you get back. I don't want you to miss anything.
No, Bob, you just keep on rolling, baby.
No. Stop. All right, the plot synopsis. Dude, that shit's still cracking me up. Plot synopsis for Frankenweenie is as follows. Victor Frankenstein is a young scientist and amateur filmmaker. He lives with his parents and beloved dog, Sparky, in New Holland, town of New Holland. His dad suggests he play baseball to get out and make some new friends. Victor hits a home run and Sparky chases the ball into oncoming traffic and gets hit and dies. Inspired by his new science teacher, Victor redirects his dead dog and reanimates him with a bolt of lightning in his homemade lab. Neighbor kid Edgar recognizes the dog and blackmails Victor into showing him how he brought his dog back to life. The two together reanimate a fish, but it turns invisible due to an error in the process. Edgar tries to show the fish to his friend Nasser, but it's gone, leading him to believe that the reanimated animals are only living for a limited time. Fearful of losing the school science fair, another kid named Toshiaki and his buddy Bob make a rocket out of soda bottles. Bob breaks his arm when they test it, and eventually the science teacher is fired from the school. Edgar reveals what he and Victor have done to Tokiyashi, Nasser, and Bob. They all decide they also want to reanimate their animals. Victor's parents discover Sparky in the attic and are very upset, causing the dog to run away. Victor says he just wants his dog back, and the three of them go looking for the dog. When they leave, Victor's classmates invade his homemade lab. Mr. Whiskers is turned into this large cat bat creature thing. Edgar makes a were-rat. Nasser brings his hamster back to life, and Tokiyashi's turtle turns into a giant Gamera-like creature. And Bob's sea monkeys finally turn into these like humanoids from the deep type creatures that crawl out of the pool. Bob and Toshiaki ask Victor for help. They feed the sea monkeys salted popcorn and they explode. Colossus is stepped on by Shelly, the giant turtle. The were-rat and Shelly both return to their original deceased form. There's some electricity involved here. Mr. Whiskers grabs Elsa's poodle and takes her to the windmill. Elsa and Victor chase after. The townsfolk blame Sparky and chase after him with torches. Elsa's uncle accidentally ignites the windmill. Victor and Sparky save Elsa and Persephone, but Victor is trapped inside the windmill. Sparky saves Victor and then is dragged back inside by Mr. Whiskers, where the windmill collapses, killing them both. So Sparky is dead yet again. The townsfolk all gather and reanimate Sparky using their car batteries, and Persephone and Sparky touch noses and produce tiny little sparks and live on happily ever after. Roll credits. If you go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, very Frankenstein-y. You know, I mean, the kid's name is just Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah. It's Victor Frankenstein, yeah.
And then the little the little dog next door, like when she gets like sparked by Sparky, like her hair turns into like the Bride of Frankenstein kind of hair.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really bringing in a lot of these influences from the Universal monster movies, which is kind of cool to see. The Igor character is basically in this as well. And the kaiju aspects are in there. So like, yeah, it's kind of a cool way to introduce a young person to a lot of neat stuff that they could dive deep into when they get a little older if they wanted.
For sure.
How you feel?
Yeah, I like that. That's the best part of it to me, is that it's just like repurposing all of these classic monster stuff. And it feels like a love letter to those things more than it feels like just about anything else. I guess it's also like you could argue, certainly, and I'm sure that this is in the mix with the marketing, that it's also a love letter for Tim Burton to his former self, to the short that he put together that this is based on, to his aesthetic. Like, this is the most we've seen of Tim's like direct, unfiltered aesthetic that in years. Like, I don't remember what else he had done around this time that would have been like so identifiably Tim Burton's hand at play.
Maybe The Corpse Bride might be the most comparable
Corpse Bride,
thing.
yeah. These two, yeah, I think, and that Corpse Bride came out after this, didn't it?
I'm looking at 2005, so it had been 7 years
since
he had made The Corpse Bride.
Shit, I thought they were around the same time. Well, anyway, so like, yeah, this is like going back to animation, but also going back to like what is clearly his character design and all that sort of thing. It feels like an artist telling a story through his own lens. That's what we like that about Tim Burton. When it starts feeling like more of just like a blockbuster or whatever, when it starts feeling like a Dumbo or just like got Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or whatever, it stops having that sort of like very recognizable, even if it wasn't recognizable, very like individual flavor. So this movie has a lot of that. I gotta love it for that. And the look of it, I love that it's in black and white. That is a hard sell in Hollywood. So the fact that he
Yeah.
pushed for that and got it, good for him for that, because it
And he's
could have
been able
easily
to
been forced
do
into
that.
color.
He's been able to do that multiple times too, which really just goes to show like how big his name is. Something else.
Oh, I was gonna say. Oh, go ahead.
Just
say it at the same time.
Another thing this movie sort of like pays homage to is like those old stop motion Christmas shorts that we'd all watched as a kid, the Rankin Bass stuff. With the Burgermeister they just in this movie, like that character, he looks identical in this movie, which is definitely like a bit of an homage. I don't know those
shorts, I guess, well enough to recognize that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's the neighbor, the old crusty neighbor who's really stoked about the Holland.
I didn't realize he was a Rankin Bass figure though. Like
he looks very similar. Well, a lot of them look very similar to the designs that were made in Nightmare Before Christmas as well, which is at this point an established and beloved Christmas property. But what I was going to say, going back to the black and white, is I even love it. Starts off on the perfect note of the Disney castle going black and white with the lightning. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so fun. And that's why I think this is a really fun, good one for getting kids into horror, because another thing that it really reminded me of was the kind of approach of Del Toro as well, thinking about Shape of Water and how he was describing that, and how you kind of have these established kind of monsters that are very famous that are usually on the other side of things. You're running from them, you're scared of them. But in this one, it brings a lot of heart because, the story of Frankenstein is one, where he creates the monster and then they fight each other. It's hideous. He hates it. And this one, it's the dog. He loves it. And it's so sad to see the dog go. And you get the misunderstood perception of the monster through the dog. I mean, a lot of people are dog people, or even it's not just, it's pets. Towards the end, it's all of them. And so that's really precious to me. And it has that kind of flair of listening to Del Toro talk about the idea of the monster and like how he identifies with them and the idea of being a monster in society and stuff like that, and an outsider. And it's just like very precious. I don't know. So I think this has a good spin on the idea of horror and monsters and putting it in that kind of kid's perspective. I think it works well for that.
Yeah.
I feel like this, like I had said something similar earlier, but like the whole movie is not just a love letter to like that one project. It really feels like he's reintroducing things from his past. Like he's reusing all that. When we talked about how he reused the windmill, like that was in Sleepy Hollow, a direct reference to Frankenstein. Like in this, it is also a direct reference to Frankenstein, but it's also a reference to his previous work. And a lot of this stuff in this movie is kind of that. It's like it's black and white, like some of his previous work. It's, I don't know, like the characters, all their models look the same as his previous, not the same, but like they're built from the same stock and really fleshed out in that direction. So I don't know, like I feel like him having like even the exploration, like you're just talking about, of the monsters, that's something we've seen before, and he does it well because his point of view tends to be this point of view where it's the somewhat naive, lovable outsider who doesn't know how to socially integrate, and is misunderstood because of that. Every single movie we were talking about tonight has an element of that, and like so many of the movies that are iconically him deal with that exact thing. So this is like the kids' version of that. Like this is the kid-friendly version of that, with all of like his whole career sort of like rolled into this child-friendly packaging, and I think that works. Like it largely works. I don't think that it works perfectly, at least not from an adult perspective. But as I don't know, distilling it down, all the things that that motivate him as an artist, all the things that inspire him as an artist that he's used before because it's so inspiring, and going back to that to like produce something for kids, I think that's kind of fun. I don't know. I like that about it.
It's a message. It's a warning to all parents out there that try to make their little monster kids go outside and play baseball against their will.
Well,
their dog's gonna die.
Even the dad.
The rails.
The dad that doesn't get it. That's another one.
I just
Yeah.
don't need it.
Well,
The
there's
mom's
there's a
absentee mom. Or
there's a lot of great self-awareness here, and there's a lot of commentary that I it does feel very personal for time here, because not only that perspective of, you know, the kid making the movie, Victor making movies in the beginning, and obviously this is one of his very old shorts that he did, so this idea, but even one of the characters that I really love is the teacher. So like when the teacher comes in, and one of my favorite scenes, you know, it's a very kind of potent commentary of the parent teacher conference or whatever, where he's in the thing. And I love the kind of misunderstanding of him. He's very passionate, but in his passion, even the mom, who I think is the most understanding, even the dad who doesn't get it, or where he's still, well, you know, our son really likes this teacher. Maybe we need to approach this from a different perspective. But the teacher's so passionate, he's just like, you are all damn fools, and I
Calls
don't
them
want to
idiots.
yeah, crack
you
your
are ignorant.
kids heads open and get into their brains. I love that shit, but it also feels kind of self-aware in a bit from like an older, more mature type of perspective of like how you sell being different, maybe, or how I don't know. It just feels, a lot of the commentary he's making feels potent in a very kind of kid-friendly way, but as an adult watching it, and as this, like, knowing that this is Tim Burton kind of revisiting things as an older, more mature filmmaker who's kind of like been in the business and kind of been seen as like cheap and stuff for a while, I can see like his like gears working here, and like it's like this self-reflection in many different ways, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true for sure. I don't know, like the things. This movie also though has some problems. I was not a huge fan of like exactly where it ended. Like I understand it, the logic of it makes perfect sense. Like this is a kids movie. End it with the dog and the family being happy. I understand that impulse, but I don't think that. I think that ultimately undercuts some of the messaging that this movie could have. It's not just about like people not understanding you and you feel like an outsider because you're a scientist and them being too ignorant, or it's not just about that. It's also about like what to do with your grief. And ultimately what happens is that what he does with his grief is he cries about it, he gets kind of over it, and then it just like doesn't matter because he's back anyway.
Well, the dog should have died.
Right.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
at the
think
end of the movie, yeah.
The dog,
narratively, that's the more satisfying ending for adults, but it is heartbreaking for kids and general audiences. So I kind of understand. I just don't think it as good of a movie the way that it is now.
I know, but I mean, you have movies that are iconic that are sad and teach kids about grief.
Yeah.
I mean, Old Yeller is an old time.
It would have been brave to do that.
Yeah, I think you really needed to. Oh, go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
This is a Disney movie, and I know like back in the day, Disney would hit you with some pretty heavy stuff, but like I don't think they're really in the market to do that. Like more recently, you know, they kind of pull the punches a little bit.
Up came out the same time around this, and that opening is one of the saddest fucking shit you'll ever see.
Shit. Yeah, you're right.
He should,
but it doesn't end on a low note.
It doesn't. Yeah,
I don't know. I understand the impulse. It's the safe move. The courageous move would have been to allow the dog to die and show Victor, you know, carrying the memory but moving on.
Randy is calling Borton a coward right now. He just got clocked by Randy.
This man is a coward.
He's a coward.
This man he's a frightened little child.
You need to make these kids weep, Borton. What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I don't have a huge problem with it because it is intended directly for children, and you don't want to leave your kids on that note of a maturity that they might not have. I understand that. I just think that the thing that would like I would really respect as a courageous move would be to not pull that punch and allow kids the chance to experience that sort of grief in a safe environment like a movie. But I don't know. I'm of two minds about it. Obviously, there's reasons for both. There's pros and cons.
Well, yeah, and not just that. I think he kind of played it safe in a couple aspects. Now, I think I like what he did with the teacher and how I honestly kind of wish the teacher came back, or I just like that character and I wish we had a little bit more of him. But one thing I thought maybe he should do too is there should probably be some more conflict with the dad. I mean, I feel like all of the conflicts here are very kind of like surface level, and they're all really pushed onto this next door neighbor who's just you just don't understand guy.
Yeah,
You're just
Mr. Big Head.
square. Yeah, you're so. But I feel like there was a lot of potential to have, for instance, I mean, even with the whole aspect of the teacher being some kind of father figure, of representing someone you look up to, who shares your interest, who kind of understands your perspective, as opposed to your very own dad who just doesn't, who you just can't relate to. And then that kind of, I think there's a lot of potential for more deeper characters and relationship building here than what we ultimately got.
That's true, but also bear in mind he did that same shit and like what you're describing in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it sucked major dick.
Well,
and
yes,
everyone complained about it. And
but that
I
was
can't, it was terrible. And the thing is, like, you can do it well, but I could also understand, like, from the creator's perspective, like, I am not touching that shit with
That's
the same
fair.
like. But he does include it to some degree, and I don't know. There's also something to be said about like well-intentioned parents who just don't know. I like this moment where his dad's like, sometimes parents don't know what the hell they're talking about, and I like them trying together to revive the dog. I kind of wish that did not work, and I think that would have brought everything home to a more satisfying narrative conclusion that really like doesn't pull the punch. But ultimately, I was glad they did that, and I could see them adding more of that in there and like showing a little bit more conflict with the dad. I don't know. I'm again like a little bit understanding because of the context of his career at the time.
Yeah.
Del Toro would have killed the dog.
Oh yeah.
Should have been Del Toro.
Well, I mean, because they set it up the way, the fish
This deeply Tim Burton movie should have been directed by someone else. Okay.
Well, even like if the other kids had some deeper attachment to the animals that do disappear, because they all revive their old pets. The one's the fish. That kid's weird. He doesn't care. And then he ultimately just like,
weird.
He just grabs a rat out of the trash. But you have the one guy who, go at Colossus. I thought that was a joke that they set up really well and didn't ultimately pay off as much. Like I kind of wanted more from that. I thought it was really funny. Colossus, and he's got this giant fucking tomb, and it's this hamster. He looks like a mummy. Okay, and I don't know. There's a lot of things I felt like were really good, and I just wanted more. I wanted, what?
Sorry, I didn't mean to catch up.
Go ahead.
I just feel like based on that, like you make a good point. I didn't really necessarily think that all those kids cared about the animals they were reviving. Certainly not the Igor stand-in. He was just finding animals, and that's fine. If the other kids had talked more about like, so I can bring back my turtle, or I can bring back or whatever, and then they do everything just the same, and he releases Colossus gets squished, all that stuff, and these like even the cat dies in this movie, but they don't ever dwell on that. If they don't revive the dog, then the climax of the movie is all of the kids coming together in their grief and like finding comfort in each other, and him finding friends through that. Like,
true.
Yeah,
that's the end of the movie that could have like really like set everything else apart.
Full circle.
And honestly, it makes for a better motivation because, like you said, instead of just like, well, we're going to get a big trophy, and because it doesn't make sense for them. The kids are doing an experiment to compete in a science fair. They blame the teacher. The teacher gets fired. They still host the science fair. So kids still want to do experiments, which leads to this. So that doesn't really make sense. But if you have these kids who are like, they're all grieving the loss of some kind of animal, and so that's their motivation, like, give it to us, Victor. But Victor's kind of being more mature about it because his teacher guided him, maybe, or something, or maybe his mom or somebody, and says like, guys, I don't think this is really good. He wants it. So then they break in. I get to bring back Shelly. Shit, Shelly is a fucking giant thing, and nobody knows how to deal with the consequences of it. They all come together. They deal with the consequences. Their pets are gone. They all become friends, and they share their grief together. That's a lot deeper. Okay.
Just the one hitch in that, which I think is surmountable, I just don't know how yet, is they do make a point to say that the revival process, the reason these animals are coming back as like fucked up and like dangerous, and not like fun and happy like Sparky's, because they're not brought back for the purposes of love.
Yeah.
Like it's not a loving tribute to the animal
They
necessarily.
could have
It's just-
changed that though. They could
Yeah,
have
they
changed
could have
the
changed that,
factor.
exactly,
Like
yes.
some variable that Victor didn't realize was important.
Yeah.
And the other kids leave out or
There's-
something because
there's
they
ways to work
steal
around
the
that,
formula.
yes.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah,
I
think that would have made
just
it.
to point that out, because that is an inconsistency in what we've presented. But yeah.
The like New Holland town and the Dutch Day and like the whole town sort of being obsessed with this situation is like apparently based on a real town somewhere New England. I forget exactly where it is, but I thought that was kind of an interesting like setting for a movie. I'd never seen anything quite like that before. Where they had a specific Dutch Day and everything. Was that news to you guys, or were you familiar with that?
I have seen something similar. There's a town called Solvang in California that we went to a couple times, which is very much like designed to look like Dutch. I don't remember the exact nationality, but it's got like the faux windmill here and there. Nothing like in the movie exactly, but like they're pulling off that aesthetic, and they have a big like Christmas time festival, and they sell a bunch of like traditional like Dutch things, Dutch babies or whatever. I don't know, whatever. All kinds of Christmas shit. So yeah, I've seen that sort of thing. Like certain towns just have that sort of thing, especially weirdly in California. Like there's one town in California that's just like one of the biggest garlic producers in the world. So they just have a big garlic fest where they just make everything out of garlic, and it's just a thing that they do. And that's fucking rad. And so I could totally buy a town called New Holland. I think it all works really nice. And it is a means to an end, and that end is to have the Frankenstein ending. But it doesn't bother me because they do like they do enough lip service to it. They have the girl singing with her like little Dutch hat on and all that stuff. I wish they did a little bit more, but for the most part, it's all justified to me.
And her name was like Elsa Van Helsing or something like that. There's like another reference.
That's right. Yeah.
Helen, Georgia, I think is a place that's like similar to that. Have y'all ever been to Helen, Georgia?
Yeah, it's a German town. I haven't been. Okay. I'm familiar with it. But it's kind of a similar vibe. I would assume.
Yeah, where it's all supposed to look and feel like a certain kind of way. But the Dutch thing again. It kind of to me, it really was kind of going back more to like the origins and more the referencing of Frankenstein, but how do you bring it into this area, and how do you like hit some of the beats of like the European folk tales, but in a American setting. So they could have maybe done a little bit more, but it didn't bother me that they.
No, it didn't bother me at all. It was interesting. It felt novel in a way.
Yeah.
Small correction, Danish style is what Solvang is. So I just want to make sure I don't misrepresent the town.
They're coming after us.
I know
the
Solvangers. They're coming. The Solvangians. I don't know. If you're from Solvang, call in and complain about everything I've said.
How's it hanging in Solvang?
I like the I like the characters in this too. The other kids and how they're this would be one of those things you see as a kid and you watch it again and again, and then as an adult you go like, oh shit, I didn't realize that was actually this thing.
It's like your revelation about Peter Lorre earlier in the week.
Yeah, exactly. So
he's not. This isn't just a style of character in Looney Tunes. This is actually based on a figure.
Well, since we watched Looney Tunes, it popped up. It also popped up in I was watching that Monster Party thing or whatever, and he's a character in that too. And I was like, who is this? I was like, all those images popped in my mind, and so I started doing the research. I was like, oh shit. But yeah, same thing as Looney Tunes. They show us all these things, and they're referential to things that maybe adults at the time get or whatever, but you don't fucking know. That's your first exposure to it as a child, so it just kind of sticks with you in that way. I like that represents a lot of things in this way.
I couldn't identify all of the references, but did you? Like, I don't know if that's part of trivia, but like there's certainly like the person who does Igor or Fritz as the original character. Then there's like the guy who brings back Humongo or Giganto or whatever, the guinea pig.
That's supposed to be Boris.
That's what I thought. I was like, is that a Boris Karloff? I wasn't 100%, but And then the girl with the cat, I'm not sure who she's supposed to be exactly, but I feel like she's a reference to somebody, perhaps.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't see anything specifically about that in the trivia. There actually wasn't a ton of trivia for this movie.
Oh wow,
Oh,
okay.
I'm surprised.
One of the other things I did find in the trivia though is in the graveyard, the dog, the ghost dog Zero from Nightmare Before
Yeah.
Christmas, his
Aw.
little tombstone
saw
is in
that.
there.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. And even Pet Cemetery is, that's a Pet
Yeah,
Cemetery
true, yeah.
going on.
Totally,
Yeah,
yeah.
And
It's a
even
hard road.
there's the sweet little moment where the dog doesn't know where he belongs and he goes to, and again, a kind of a reference to Frankenstein where he wanders, where he's positive at first, happy. I mean, they never go full like the dog is mad or angry in this one or whatever, but him just wandering around and not knowing where he belongs and ending up back at his grave. There's even references of like, that's where I belong, like that's where my soul says I should be or something. Man, you really needed to kill the dog in the end.
Yeah. Kill that dog, you coward.
He set everything up pretty well,
It would have been really, really impactful if he had.
Yeah.
It's a shame for us adults, but probably a
Yeah.
few less child's tears in the world.
Those kids just will never know how to deal with their grief.
How
and it's
dare
all
you,
Time Horton's fault.
I mean, it's Pixar's not afraid. You look at the
you're right.
Emotions movie where that guy died. I mean, he doesn't die, but he
Well, there are kids'
I
movies
didn't
that
see
deal with
that.
death and
ceases
deal
to
with
exist.
all kinds
Oh.
of things.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible. It's just it's a harder sell.
Or
It's one of
Toy
those things-
Story.
Toy Story's a good one. Yeah. It's one of those
Nobody
things that's
dies in
hard.
Toy Story.
They
though.
don't die, but they deal with like really
It is-
sad emotions.
In the third
Yeah.
one they do, and the second one they do too. I would say the first one is mostly just like jealousy stuff, but
It's one of those things that like you just add to the very, very long list of difficult things to talk about that Americans just avoid talking about
Yeah,
with their
we're-
children.
Yeah.
Like it's just a little uncomfortable, so we'll avoid it entirely and you'll have no idea how to handle it.
Well, and the
That'll be
fact that
better.
it's become one of those things where you almost have to like worry about, is like this worth the hassle of people being like, how dare you make my kids cry?
As a
It's-
filmmaker, yeah,
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like, god damn it.
I get it. Yeah.
I
At a
remember.
certain
I don't know.
point, you shouldn't feel like obligated to raise their kids, and you shouldn't have to deal with these upset parents either. Yeah, just focus on the art and the
You
fallout.
guys-
See the fallout.
We've all seen Monster House, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Did you know? I don't know if you guys know the story about Dan Harmon was one of the original creators of that script. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there was a kind of a news story that went around where somebody's daughter sent him a letter, somebody's child daughter sent him a letter and asked him like that movie scared me. What or no, maybe the parents sent him a letter like the movie scared my daughter. She was very upset by it. Is there anything you can say to help her get over it or whatever, like something like that? And he had been kind of like summarily booted to some degree out of that project, and some like other writers came and sort of like changed some things around for the studio. And I don't know if you remember how much you remember about that movie, but the villain is just like, it's just an evil person. It's just an evil thing. It's just very evil. And so he wrote this letter to this little girl. He's like, I understand why you feel this way. People aren't actually like this. People have reasons for the way that they act. And some of it was like, that movie could have also like this movie could have been elevated to something else if the studios had been willing. So like, that's the sort of thing that makes me think that as much as this is a product of Tim Burton, and Tim Burton is definitely like at the time of creation of this on a higher plane than Harmon was when he created Monster House, so he had more sway.
Yeah.
I think he could have fought for it. He didn't, maybe, or maybe he couldn't fight any harder than he did. I don't know, but I just don't think that it serves the movie in the same way. And I think that probably it probably just, I don't know. To me, it's
maybe
not as effective.
Pixar
I just
has
don't
more
think it-
sway as an entity because they've always kind of set up a lot of their movies like that. A lot of
but-
emotion built in.
Yeah, and they also like even Up, even Toy Story, all those things, like they still end on a high note,
Yeah.
even if it's like we've been through this, seen our
Yeah.
scrapes, but we're here now and we're together, sort of thing.
It's elevated animation over
And that's
at
what this
Pixar.
could have been with the other kids. I don't know why they chose not to.
Elevated. Yeah.
I only show my kids elevated animation.
Oh my goodness.
My goodness.
Oh my goodness.
I can smell your farts from here.
Yeah, they even so with the monsters too, Bob was referencing, we get a Godzilla. So it's not just, we're doing some classic kind of horrors.
Sea monkeys were my favorite.
They throw them, the
Yeah.
sea monkeys were awesome, and I loved how they killed them with popcorn. That's
was
fantastic.
smart.
That's so fun.
Salt, yeah.
Yeah, you
Super
have the
fun.
mummy. Yeah.
And they look just like the creatures on the boxes of those things, but
They do.
but ripped straight out of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
The Burgermeister kill when he runs into the porta-john and the sea monkeys come up out of the toilet. I love that moment. It just reminded me a lot of Jurassic Park when the lawyer runs into the John.
Speaking of the phone booth too, they did a Birds homage.
Oh yeah,
running the phone booth. Yeah,
that was actually like kind of scary. I was like, oh shit, yeah, like the thing was like pressing its face against the frosted glass. I was like, that looked awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of cool stuff in here. I like the little movie set pieces too, the dog running on the little treadmill and it changes the set behind him or whatever. That's so fun. The mom, the cute little mom looking for her. Oh, where's my waffle maker? Or she's so sweet. Like, you want waffles or whatever, and like, I'll need the waffle maker. And so I don't know, it's just a good little family dynamic. There's a lot of precious sweet aspects about this. And again, as a dog lover, the little relationship of the dog dying and wanting to bring it
that's
back
hard
and stuff. Yeah.
We've all had pets
sweet.
go, and it's like, it's rough.
It sucks. Yeah.
So there's some really good stock here. Really a lot of love. And again, like we said, it almost as you get older too, like looking at these movies too, I feel like we can kind of look and see Tim Burton too, of like, we love a lot of early Tim Burton, and Tim Burton went a certain way, and like him kind of coming back, I think it feels kind of nice to see. And as an adult, understanding too of maybe like returning to your roots a little bit, the things you love. I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff in here. There's a lot of good heart stuff in here. Yeah.
I agree. It's just like, it's just got it's dings, and one ding in particular that we've talked about ad nauseum that really kind of doesn't allow it to reach the heights it could reach, I think.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're about landing the plane. Is there anything we missed you guys want to touch on?
No. Bob, why don't you kick us off? Out of 5, Frankenweenie.
Gracious. I like this movie. It's a lot of fun.
I like old time Burton.
This movie.
Old time. Hey, Scott, that
time
here.
vortex going places.
He's really cooking with gas. This movie is kind of like lean. There's not like a ton of meat on the bone. I think it's mainly just aesthetically really badass, and I think it's got a ton of cool references. It's got like some fun character moments, but I don't know that it's like really inventing anything or like doing anything super new. And it's a light, breezy watch. It kind of rolls by, and you can have some fun with it. But I think it really serves a younger audience best. I mean, this is definitely made for kids. I think if you have some young ones, this would be a great movie to throw on during Halloween. Like, perfect. I would highly recommend it for that situation. If you're like an old crusty horror fan in your mid-30s, I don't know if this is like really gonna do it for you, but I don't think it's a waste of time either. I think it's plenty good. Definitely not one of Tim Burton's worst movies, like by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of covered it all. This is sort of in the same ballpark as Sleepy Hollow for me, I think. So I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5 as well. So, Juice, how do you feel?
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, I kind of agree about like watch. So I've watched it 2 years in a row now, and I like it. And I would always kind of like recommend maybe people to check it out, especially if they had kids. But I don't know if it's going to make the rotation next year. I might be okay with it for now, but it's really just refreshing to see, kind of like an old friend returning to form in some ways. I do think I do wish it was elevated higher, because it wouldn't take much to get it there. And if it had, I feel like it could have lived in this space of like, wow, that was I don't know. I feel like it could have lived on much longer or pulled me in more. You know what? It kind of makes me think of Klaus coming up for Christmas. You know, Klaus came out and it hits those emotional beats, and now I crave to watch it every Christmas now. I'm not necessarily going to be craving to watch this next Halloween, even though I like it and I think it's good. But it falls a little short in that aspect. I just want, like Bob said, a little bit more meat on the bone. I wish maybe the dad was developed a little bit more. I wish the kids' relationships were maybe explored a little bit more, and ultimately the idea of grief. I feel like that should have been the central theme that you carry all the way through and see it through properly. But I like all the references and the style and the designs and everything like that. I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 out of 5.
3.5. Ray and Deezy, how do you feel?
I feel largely the same again. Like I said, pretty much my biggest qualm with this movie is that ending, and but even without that, even if it had been exactly what I had described or whatever, I still think this is better geared, like Rob says, for a younger audience. I think I'm just kind of past the point where this will have the most impact on me. And that's fine. Like movies don't have to be all made for us crusty 30-year-old horror fans, in Bob's words. So like I'm glad that this exists for that reason. I too probably won't go back to it every year. But if there's kids around, if I need a family friendly horror movie to toss on, or horror-ish movie to toss on that with some younger kids, this is one of a handful that I would definitely feel comfortable putting on. This and like Coraline or like something like that. Like these are all, there's a lot of good stuff in this realm that works, and I think this is certainly deserving of consideration in that way. I like pretty much aesthetically, I like pretty much everything about this movie. I only kind of wish it was actual stop motion. That's one thing. So other than that, I don't really know what else to say. I just don't think this movie is really built for my enjoyment, and that is fine. I do enjoy quite a lot about it incidentally. So with that in mind, I just feel like if they had done that different choice, I really feel like it would reach a higher level, like a Klaus or whatever, to Justin's point. And it just doesn't quite do that. For whatever reason, that was not the choice made, and I don't think the choice completely negates the movie. I just don't think that it's as good for me as it would have been otherwise. So all that rambling, I'm going to give it a 3 as well.
Oh, boys. Another 3. That's going to put us at another 3.3 repeating.
Wow.
Let's go. I know.
Wait,
What's happening?
How is that true? Because didn't I give
wait.
Sleepy Hollow a 4, and you said it was a 3.3 repeating as
Hang
well.
on.
So
I
that
fat
can't be
fingered
right.
it. Let me 3.2. 3.2.
All right, we got to get this on.
Dodged a bullet. Holy shit.
We can't get the math wrong on this podcast where we make dick jokes constantly.
Oh, thank God. Ooh, that was a close call.
That was very close.
Let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about Frankenweenie. All right, I'm running this game here, gentlemens. Again, we are going to be guessing the critics score first out of 100, and then the audience score. Juice, let's start with you. Out of critics, there are 224 critics reviews on this. Out of 100, where are we sitting? What do you think?
Wow, 224. I think they're going to be kind to this movie. I think, like all of us, you know, it's kind of nice to see Tim Burton getting back into his groove a little bit, even though I don't really know if that lasted, but you know, at least this kind of shimmer of hope here. But yeah, I think it's going to be positive. I think it is going to be capped a little bit. I think I'm going to take the 69 dudes.
Oh,
69 dudes for this children's film. Got you marked down. All right.
This theater's filled with dudes.
69, precisely. Randy, what about you?
Yeah, I feel largely the same again. I think that this is probably going to be not necessarily a critical darling, I do think there will be some softness towards it. So I'm in that same zone. I'm going to go trying to decide over under. I think I'm just going to stick with my 70. It served me well last time.
Oh, they're so soft for it.
All right. Well, Juice, you lost. Randy's going to edge you out.
Shit. Oh shit, bro.
It's actually kind of it surprised me anyway. It's pretty high. It's at 88%.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Great.
It's up there.
Good.
So let's go ahead and do the same thing with the audience score. Randy, you kick us off. Where are we at out of 100?
Yeah, I think for this sort of movie, I can't imagine that it goes lower than the critic score. You said 80 what?
88%.
88. Okay. Maybe I'll just go with 88 again. I feel like going much higher is kind of risky, but I don't want to go lower than the critics. That seems unlikely to me.
Okay, and I forgot to mention there's 50,000 plus ratings, so pretty decent sample size, by the way.
Yeah, enough to where it's homogenized in some way.
So you want 88 your guess?
Yeah, let's try 88 on this one.
Okay, Juice, what about you?
I'm gonna go slightly lower. There might be some people out there just like really not digging on old Ty Borton stuff at this point. So I'm gonna say 85, take a little lower.
All right. Juice. You're gonna win.
Whoa! Thought you were psyching me out, Bob.
It is a little bit lower. It's still positive, 70% overall for the audience.
That's a pretty big drop.
I should throw a huge tantrum because I lost.
You should. You should.
I know. I just broke the streak. No double sweeps for you, Randy.
Oh, son of a bitch.
No double sweeps. The biggest winner is always Juice.
Always coming up,
it.
Soju.
Everything's coming up, Stains.
You're the margarine of evil.
Wow, dude. Wow. The critics' consensus for this movie says Frankenweenie is an energetic stop-motion horror movie spoof with lovingly crafted visuals and a heartfelt oddball story. Sure, that sounds about right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are there any funny, negative? No, these are just all fucking
laugh.
All positive. Make me laugh, clown. No, there's like nothing. Anyway.
Okay.
There also, like I mentioned, there really wasn't a ton of trivia for this movie. The bits that I had, I kind of tried to work into the conversation. I didn't find much else other than that.
Okay.
But yeah, the Burgermeister guy was like, it looked identical to the stop motion Rankin and Bass stuff. So like, if you put those on this Christmas, like compare and contrast,
the kind of big mouth thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely looks like he could come out of that world for sure.
Yeah, similar like crotchety character.
And there is a Burgermeister character that I'm looking at from Rankin Bass that I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Look, what is that? The Flame Meister or whatever. Is that the one you're talking about?
Miser and the
Miser. Is that one?
There's a Burgermeister. Meister Burger is the name.
That's the one. Yeah, Burgermeister Meister Burger. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really all the trivia that I could find on it. So let's go ahead and get into our third feature. Huh?
I'm sorry, I just saw a headline that made me laugh. This is a headline that I searched for this name, Burgermeister Rankin Bass, and the first thing says, "Are your favorite Christmas specials secretly Jewish and gay?"
Yeah, I hope so, man. I really
They all are. They
brother.
One.
It's a war on Christmas, as we all
There's
know.
a war on Christmas 70 years ago.
Charlie Brown is gay and Jewish. If you didn't
dawn
know,
of time.
Hey, you can't watch the Christmas special.
Oh
fuck!
That was a motherfucking liar. So you know I ain't worried.
Gay and Jewish.
You know what? Let's not talk about Edward Scissorhands and just read that article live on the air right now.
No, I can't.
Let's do
I can't do it. I don't have the heart for it.
But speaking of Christmas,
yeah, this next movie is very much a Christmas movie. So yeah, Edward Scissorhands is our third feature. Let's get into it and kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Randeezy, you're running the show. What's up?
Driving Randy.
Sure. Give me 1 second.
Randy already needs a break.
I need a break. I'm an old man.
Okay.
Well, I'll take this opportunity then.
Yeah, you should. Sorry, I completely forgot about the actual synopsis. I have the synopsis I wrote.
Oh yeah, I got you.
I don't have
Short.
the back of the box. Like, here we go. I got one. All right.
Maybe well, I'm gonna refill my bevy. BRB.
Oh, I'm gonna do the same thing if everybody else is. Okay.
Ooh, all right. It's a long one. Woo. Oh, woo. Woo. Oh, woo.
All right. Whenever Bob gets back, I'll kick it back in.
Okay.
Actually, I'm gonna go take a leak real quick. Give me 5 minutes.
Yeah, do that. This is how the sausages are made. Happy Halloween and Merry Christmas. And happy holidays and everything. From Shaboy Soju. Shaboy. What up, Bob?
Okay, I'm back. Boys back in town.
Bob, just 2 more weeks.
Ooh,
Headed your
time
way.
flies.
Ooh, gotta start packing them bags.
I kept my earphones on, and I gotta say it's very weird to hear you sweet talk into my ear while I'm holding my.
Yes.
Wow.
That was
Wow.
for
Like,
the
"Oh, this is weird."
that was for the viewers.
Ooh, Randy. Hey, buddy. How you
Oh,
doing?
hey, you taking a leak, Randy?
ASMR has never
how's
worked
that,
for me before.
Is that
Oh, my.
going well for you, huh?
All
You're
right.
my
I found-
favorite pisser.
Whoa, okay.
Weird. Rob, why you always got to go there?
Always Bob.
Someone's got to do it.
All right.
All right. I'll just pick up with the
Yeah.
back of the box. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Here is the back of the box on Amazon Prime. A kindly inventor dies before finishing his creation of a young man named Edward, who had sharp metal shears for hands. Edward was sad and alone until a kind lady invited him to live with their family. Very broad. Yes.
Yeah.
Broadly, yes.
That's it. That's
Nothing
it.
else happens in this movie. There's no other characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've all seen this, right? This is definitely not a first time watch.
Oh,
Nope.
yeah.
Post show. Well, recommendations. Jenna Wangs, would you recommend people check this movie out? Ram Deasy, kick us off.
Yes, to whatever extent you like Tim Burton, if you like his work at all, this is top tier, top form for him. This is right when he was like just incapable of making anything other than really great movies. Yeah, I think it's in the running for most people for their like top 3 of his, if not their top spot. And so, yes, I recommend it.
Right on. Juice. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think this one, yeah, like Randy said, I think a lot of people would probably consider this their top tier Burton film, number 1. Not me, but yeah, I think it's definitely it's in the golden age of Time Burton, where he was like for 10 years, just every movie that he made was gold. So
that Tim Horton, he's a great filmmaker.
So yeah, I would recommend people check this out if you've never seen it before, and perfect timing heading into Christmas season. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check it out?
Oh,
this
hell
is
yeah.
A loose recommend.
No, this
I don't know.
You guys got it. I'll set this one out. This is a tight recommend, a very, very tight recommendation. I agree. This is one of my favorite Tim Burton movies. You gotta watch it if you haven't seen Edward Scissorhands. Absolutely treat yourself to it. I think you'll dig it if you dig Tim Burton's style. And it's a Christmas movie, so throw it on. I don't think you'll regret it. Tim Horton seems like the most obvious next evolution to the name now, as we tend to do. We just get like crazier and crazier. But my boy Tim Horton, this is his golden era. That sounds like a solid recommendation from the Straight Killing crew.
I think so.
We're spoiling the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
All right, everybody, get your Tim Hortons iced coffee ready to roll. We're about to dive right in.
Hell yeah.
Here is the Edward Scissorhands synopsis. An elderly woman is tucking her tiny granddaughter into a giant bed during a snowstorm. When asked to tell a bedtime story, the grandmother tells the story of Edward Scissorhands. Peg Boggs, a kindly Avon representative played by Diane Woist, attempts to make, I think it's Woist, maybe Weist, I'm embarrassed that I don't know, attempts to make a sale at a crooked old castle on a hill in an otherwise pristine corner of suburbia. She discovers a young man there named Edward, played by Johnny Depp. Edward is a creation of the lonesome inventor, Vincent Price, to be as a son, but the inventor passed suddenly before Edward was complete, leaving his hands in the form of long, sharp scissors. Peg decides to bring him home to stay with her, her husband, her young son, and teenage daughter, Winona Ryder, and help him to integrate into polite society. Excuse me. Immediately, the bored housewives of the suburban community take notice of this strange pale man, and they're hanging out with their friend Peg, and they begin pestering to meet him. Upon meeting him, he becomes a neighborhood celebrity, using his acumen with scissors to create topiary sculptures, groom pets, and give the giddy neighborhood wives fresh and bizarre hairstyles. Joyce, in particular, makes aggressive sexual advances towards Edward. Peg's daughter, Kim, Winona Ryder again, returns home and is immediately put off and frightened by Edward, making judgmental cracks about him with her headstrong boyfriend, Jim, played by Anthony Michael Hall. She slowly realizes that he is simply a sweet, if stunted, and naive young automaton. As Edward's talents become a bigger sensation, Peg attempts to get Edward a business loan for hairstyling, but he is quickly denied for bureaucratic reasons. That same day, Jim plots to thieve high-end electronics from his hated old man. He manipulates Kim into convincing Edward to assist them, but ultimately Edward gets caught by the police while the others get away. Jim aggressively prevents Kim from confessing their role in the crime at Edward's expense. The neighborhood swiftly turns on Edward, using gossip to paint him as a thief, a sex pest, and even the devil himself. The Boggs, however, continue supporting Edward. Guilt-riddled Kim breaks it off with Jim and attempts to apologize to Edward when Edward confesses that he knew all along that it was wrong, but simply did it to please Kim. They then do a big romantic ice sculpture snow dance, and it's pretty sick. The sickness is short-lived, however. When Edward accidentally nicks Kim's hand, Jim sees this and screams and threatens Edward, who runs away in fear and anger. He throws a bit of a tantrum, damaging the topiaries that he made as he walks by and popping a few car tires. The neighborhood rises up against him and chases him back to his castle, Kim in tow. Back in his home castle, Jim appears and begins a deadly confrontation, physically beating him and even Kim. Edward finally reacts to this by just killing Jim and pushing him out the window with his scissor hands. Fearing that for Edward's safety and freedom, Kim takes an identical set of scissor hands from the castle laboratory and uses it to prove to the neighborhood that both Jim and Edward are dead at each other's hands. The neighbors shuffle home. We return to the elderly woman who reveals herself to be Kim, and that Edward still lives in the castle, producing the very snow that has covered the neighborhood with his ice sculptures. Finn.
Dude, Joyce is the thirstiest,
She's
woman.
so thirsty.
Holy shit. Aggressive, dude.
She is the sex pest. It is very concerning.
When she starts feeding that man giant spoonfuls of her ambrosia salad, dude, that shit's
Ambrosia.
I'll
so
bring the
fucking funny.
ambrosia.
Oh my god, it's so funny. I love that shit.
So funny. She is one of the funnier characters in the show, and it's like infuriating funny though.
Oh yeah, especially when she sets up the whole party situation.
Dude,
Gonna keep
God.
him to yourself.
When is the barbecue?
Like, we're coming
So
over and
I'm-
you're cooking hot dogs, bitch. Like, damn.
Like, what the fuck? Get out
mean,
of here,
I-
Joyce. Eat
I
my
think-
shit.
I think Ty Borton was really obvious in his messaging of women are the true whore in this film, right?
They will get you sent to prison and make you lock yourself away for eternity. And
mean,
they'll rape you.
As long as you just eat their ambrosia salad and let them bang you, you're in the clear. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're
There's
good.
a small litmus test of items you must check off, and those are them.
What is an ambrosia salad? I'm not really
Really?
sure.
So,
What goes
okay.
into it?
My
It's a very yeah. Go
It's
ahead,
a
I'm sorry.
southern thing. My grandmother is from Memphis, Tennessee originally.
Mm.
And this is still one of the dishes that she makes every year for Thanksgiving. So it's not something she regularly makes. It's specifically for Thanksgiving, but it's hers is oh man, it's a type of like cold salad, like like Watergate salad. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
It's
With
kind of
the
like that,
nuts
but
and-
it's coconut.
It's more of a
and-
pudding.
Yeah, but it's got
almost, like a
hers
chunky
has
pudding.
coconut in it and like the little mandarin orange slices. It's sweet. So
Yeah.
I don't. It's
It
just
has
kind of like
marshmallows
this,
in it typically.
Yeah, hers does have
Okay.
marshmallows in it. It's just like kind of a sweet, cold dessert salad thing.
It's making your
It's
ears
a very
get
like
hard.
50s
know.
housewife sort of thing, honestly.
Yeah,
It is,
yeah. Salads and puddings.
It's the
and
sort of thing that probably
jellos and-
should have died a long time ago, but hasn't because it
I
manages to not be disgusting.
When she I love it for Thanksgiving. It's not something I'd
Sure.
want to eat often, but it's one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, ambrosia.
When they're
Okay.
feeding him the ambrosia salad and all those other like mayonnaise salad, it makes me want to vomit every time. No, thank you.
I'm gonna be the guy that just keeps ambrosia salad on deck in the fridge, like 24/7. Always got it. Gotta have
Hey,
it.
baby, you want to come back to my house for a cup of ambrosia salad?
My grandma made it. You'll love it.
Damn.
The overall like 50s, like idealized 50s like aesthetic of this movie juxtaposed with like that classic gothic castle, like Hammer films, like Universal Monsters shit. I love that like dichotomy so much. It like really makes this movie stand out in a way that like it's like seared into my mind for that specifically. Like I don't know that I've seen that anywhere else. But I think they just like nail both sides of that coin, and when they slam the two together, interesting shit happens. I love the look of this movie though. I think it's great, and it's not like it's typical Burton, but not the whole movie. Most of the movie's not typical Burton, I would say, which is kind of interesting and makes this stand out in his filmography for me quite a bit. You guys
I
like
don't know.
that?
I think it is him. It's just like a very specific thing he's
Yeah.
talking about. It just seems like his take on that. And I also like, just to spoil some of the trivia, and there's a lot of trivia for this one, so I don't mind mixing it in here, is that it was intentional, like it was intentionally like very like pastel and very flat, and like the dichotomy is because this whole movie is supposed to be through the point of view of Edward, who doesn't really like, he's seeing things through a childlike eyes, so everything's a
And
little
for the
more
first
whimsical and
time in a
bizarre.
way,
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so, and like it's so colorful because his life was not colorful before. It was lonely and all that stuff. So, I mean, all that in mind, I think it is. That's just how Tim is portraying those things, how time is not locking it down. Mr. Horton, he really has a good eye for that sort of like comparison and contrast. And I think that this is one of the best examples of that in his whole career, honestly.
Yeah.
I
For
agree.
sure.
And it works on like not just that sets it up, and that's prominent throughout, especially exploring suburbia and stuff like that. But a couple of notes that I made is a lot of it, especially with the castle and later with the snow and stuff like that, is it's spooky but magical. And then also I said I love him making Christmas spooky, but because you have these scenes where in your mind, or to me at least, feel like this kind of magical essence of Christmas where it is dark outside and you have these blue and the white snow kind of coming down in these castles. juxtaposed to the cheap plastic tacky trees of in the suburban houses. The dad's rolling out the fake snow on the roof and stuff like that. So it works on so many different levels against, like, again, kind of that Del Toro perception where he's like the beauty of monsters, these things like this old dark castle that is typically seen as scary and spooky, but that's where it feels magical. That's where it actually feels like the essence of something real. I really like that touch.
For sure. I mean,
I love the dad. The dad in this movie also
Alan
cracks me up. He's like the most even keeled dude. Like no matter what happens, he's just like pretty much the same like attitude and like tone. Like he doesn't ever get wound up about anything. Him like just like watching a TV set on the lawn, like they roll the TV out. I don't know. He's a funny ass dude. He's like a world class bowler. I like that like classic 50s fucking sitcom dad. I think is what they're kind of going for with him.
Well, everybody does that
a lot.
Yeah,
it's the whole frustrating aspect of suburbia. You have this very sweet yet oblivious mom who will feed you and take you in and do these things, but then she's like talking, oh, I heard your mom updated the kitchen. Oh, must be nice to be so wealthy, and like so oblivious to actually what the kids need. She's so proud of her family. I love when she's showing, she's like, that's my family. And but like she's so oblivious. But the dad's the same way too. He's just that stereotypical, what
He's
you
more
need.
Oblivious.
Yeah, what you need to do. You need to do that. And the whole talking about ethics thing.
OLED.
And then also too, the whole conflict that takes place essentially in front of that guy. The guy's on the roof when all the shit goes down with him accidentally cutting
people
her
screaming
hand. Fighting and like the instigation stuff, and these just kind of oblivious, absent-minded parents. It works so well in the box that is what suburbia is supposed to be in this world and in people's minds. It works.
Yeah,
I love that they're just like this whelming. The mom, I would argue that the mom is a little, like, certainly less oblivious than the dad, in my opinion. And like, I think that I don't know that it's even really obliviousness so much as it is like, just like, I don't know how you describe it either. Like, just like the unmitigated zip and like, and get it done ism, like the positivity. It's like, I don't know. She's just like overly positive maybe, and like doesn't, the fact that they stick with him even when he like destroys their bathroom and things like that, they're very sweet to this man because they understand like innately that it's the decent thing to do is to help this young man who doesn't know any better, and they can see that. And like nobody else in the neighborhood takes that approach to anybody else. Everybody else in the neighborhood is very much like just in it for the gossip, in it for the self-aggrandizement. They're the Joyces of the neighborhood.
In it for that, it's like dick.
Sure. Yes.
That pale dick.
That goth boy dick.
They start out loving this character who like does all this stuff for them and makes them feel special or whatever, and they end up like dragging his name through the fucking mud on the basis of one break-in, which, like, granted, he, like, for all they know, it was what it was, but like, you've also interacted with this man. If you don't see that this is somebody who has trouble telling right from wrong or understanding what the common morality is outside of his isolation, then you're not trying to. You don't want to. Like, that's what's coming.
He's an oddity for the vast majority of their community. Like they just want to like look at him and like ponder like what the fuck. Yeah. He's like it's almost like a sideshow or something. Like he's coming to town and people like gotta get a gander at him. And then beyond that, they find out that he's got a talent for the scissors, and of course they let him like give their dogs haircuts and make their shrubs look awesome. So then they kind of like just start to use him for that. Yeah, they find out that he has a use, and then the second that like this woman doesn't get that sweet goth boy dick, she starts telling lies, and like people start turning on him, and it's like really unfortunate to see this like misunderstood guy just totally be taken advantage of by pretty much everybody, except for the family that takes him in. They like probably could have been a little more attentive and a little more hands-on with him and like guided him better than they did. but at least they're like trying in some way,
Well,
and maybe the only way they know how.
And honestly, the only reason that he really falters is because Kim has a bad influence in her life. She is manipulated to manipulate. And so, like, I don't know, like, if it wasn't for Anthony Michael Hall and the id of the group, the bucking teenager who doesn't necessarily subscribe to all of the kindly social mores that you're supposed to follow in suburbia, that's keeping everybody else on an even keel. He doesn't really have that. He just wants to get money. He's got an overbearing dad, and he uses his girlfriend and this person who's too naive to know better. Presumably, he has to think. And I don't know, like he kind of represents what's happening in the brains of all of these other figures who otherwise like they invite him to poker night, but he can't cut and all this stuff. Like, they're inviting him to things, they're doing the neighborly thing, and they're trying to include him, and that is all good and well and good. But the minute he steps out of line in a way that they don't approve of, he is persona non grata. He gets written off. Absorbing into this community is only face value for somebody as different as he is.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, and it's sad. The one like religious zealot woman is then sort of like justified by all these nasty rumors that start circulating, and she's from day one saying he's a demon, the devil himself, whatever the fuck. And she like when we get a picture inside of her home, she's got this like giant neon cross and like this old ass organ, and she's just like going to town on the organ, and it's like stylized and like really cool, but like she's clearly not like a balanced person that you should listen to necessarily. And it's interesting to get a picture of her house. I like that it's a very brief scene, but I like that we get a glimpse of that other than her just like walking around the street saying nonsense.
Well, also she's another good example of how the society works, because kind of going back to their ill will and stuff like that, really the main drive of everyone in this society is to not stick out. It's the encapsulation of keeping up with the Joneses. Everybody they're all driving out at the same time. They all have the very same style cars, very same style houses and everything. And the whole kind of joke about it is Edward brings this miraculous thing to the neighborhood where, oh my God, you can make these sculptures that would seem like such a big artistic thing, and then it goes to the dogs and stuff, but then it just becomes another standard that everyone in the neighborhood has. Oh, this person has like this one, and
he's
this
a consumable.
has this one. It's just another thing for them to keep up with. Oh, hey, make the bushes in my house. Oh, trim up my dog. Oh, cut my hair. But then everybody has it. It's just another standard.
The only pride is in being the first, and that's why Joyce wants to be the first.
But then everybody wants it, and then you're all on the same level, and they want something new. And then when they're done with you, you're the easy one to cut out because you never fit in like us. When it's your benefit, it's your big benefit. Everybody wants you. When nobody wants you anymore, it's easy to cast you aside.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a little bit of mixed feeling about that. Like, there's certainly something to be said about my absolute favorite topic, which is art and commerce, the intersection of the two.
Do you have
That's
any
what's happening here.
Feelings about that?
I have some feelings about.
I've never heard this before,
believe.
Ever. I can't wait to get to the incel topic coming next. That's my favorite.
I'm going to talk about how Edward's an incel.
Dude, no, that woman was ready to roll, man.
No, but like this whole like he could have. No, like talking about like he is clearly the stand-in character for Tim Horton, and old Tim Horton. His stand-in characters are always outsiders who are good at something and who have a skill that most people don't have, and most people don't understand what it takes to develop or to do all this stuff. That's what's happening here. So on one hand, like on the arts versus commerce thing, like, yes, he is an artist who is being exploited by suburban housewives for their own benefit to the extent that they are happy to accept it. And then when they find out one thing that like throws a fly into the mix, it's easy for them to then rally around not liking that. He's a fad, he's a flavor of the month to them. He is a consumable product. And for an artist, that's ultimately like, if you want to be a professional artist, that is what you are. You become a Twix bar. You are a consumable product to people. And Tim, I'm sure, has felt that way before, and it's clear through this. At the same time, it's also like, I'm so special that everyone wants me, but they don't understand me. So there's a little bit of like, there's a little bit of like, the people don't like me. Like that's sort of, I don't know. Just maybe a little bit of naivete in that, and I guess naivete is kind of built in, but just
whenever our boy Tim Horton made Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think he definitely felt a little bit of that. Where like we are the suburban housewives that turned on his ass at that point, saying no, like you've trespassed against us.
Well, it's kind of it's kind of a look into the future, I guess, for him at that point, because this came out in 1990, so it was before Batman Returns came out, but also too, you know, that's kind of where Batman Returns headed, where he made Batman, you know, and it was this kind of big hit or whatever, and did Batman Returns, and everybody was kind of like, well, that's too weird, that's too dark, let's just for the third one, let's, you know, sell more toys, or let's, and he was like, well, what the fuck, you know. So I think he was seeing already where that was going to be headed and stuff like that for him as an artist. So it's I mean, I think it's a tale as old as time, you know, especially the stereotype.
Dude, I love Batman Returns. That shit rules.
Oh yeah, me too. But at the time,
Christmas movie too, by the way.
Yeah. But at the time, it was, you know,
right.
What
is this?
Like, this is too much. I don't know.
That's too much.
It was
flavor.
a lot. Old fucking DeVito, really, man. He chews the scenery and several fish in that movie. So
he's got the crustiest draws you've ever seen.
He rules in that.
He does.
But I could understand people being repulsed by that, because that's kind of the point.
It's
I think Johnny Depp does a really good job in this movie. It's a very minimalistic performance. He doesn't have like a ton of dialogue, but I think when he's able to emote quite a lot with just like the way he carries himself and like through his eyes. And of course, when he does speak, like he does a good job with his line delivery and stuff. Yeah. But I think this is a great like role for Johnny Depp before Juice, I believe you mentioned like Pirates of the Caribbean, where like he got like real like over the top with his performance and stuff. And it's a great performance, but like this is subdued but still like really stylistic. I think he did a really good job with it.
It services the story really well.
Yeah,
and this is their first movie together.
Yeah, together.
They became friends on this.
I mean, this is 1990. Even Sleepy Hollow 1999, so almost 10 years later. And then I think Pirates of the Caribbean was maybe 2001, or I don't know, much later. So anyways, but yeah, I mean, he was really young, and I agree. I think that there's a couple scenes, you know, he's pretty like static for a lot of it, you know, playing like not a lot of emotion, but there's some funny thing, you know, he drinks the alcohol, he thinks it's lemonade. That's just pretty funny. There, and when he like fucking tears shit up, that's a cool ass scene where he's going through the house. A lot of it is body language and like some facial cues and stuff, but
well, I just want to go ahead and put this trivia in there.
Okay.
So they knew that they didn't want him to speak a lot to service the role.
Sure.
And to prepare for the role, they specifically had him watch Charlie Chaplin movies for silent film techniques of just emoting without.
That's cool.
Nice.
Speaking. Yeah. It's just I think it's really smart, and I'll get to another piece of trivia about that in the trivia section. But that's like, it's clear that services this role, because he's like a Pinocchio figure in this movie. But he has to be afraid of everything to a certain degree in order for other people to also then be afraid of him back, like on first blush. Like when he's lying in the fucking waterbed when Kim comes home, that scene of him covers up, I'm like, that's the scariest thing you could have done, and you have no idea.
Yeah.
With the fucking fingers, the knives like hanging out or whatever.
And then like he pops the thing, and then he just kind of walks out, and she goes, "Wah!" Again. It is so
when the way he walks,
it's
that's
like
great.
He walks like he's in Paranormal Activity. It's great.
Also, too, when it's a great scene when he comes out, Tim Burton does a great job of setting up these. It's spooky where he comes out of the house and the cops are like, "Drop your knives," and he's just
dude.
mindlessly walking towards them. Also, too, when the mom
He's
first
so pale.
when the mom first finds him in the attic and he's in the shadow and he kind of raises up and kind of that's creepy as shit.
Dude, yeah, when the Bible thumper first comes up and says he's the devil and comes into their backyard and he just kind of starts walking placidly towards her and she's like, "Get away from," I was like, okay, that's a little intimidating. I can understand being a little afraid even though this lady's talking bullshit.
He has that same walk at the very end of the movie when he kills the meathead boyfriend, where he just turns and just like very casually just stabs him in the belly and just keeps walking and just strolls him right out the window.
Yeah,
he just shows him out.
That scene, yeah, it's like it's like mostly emotionless, but he does it in like such a calm, cool, collected way, and just like kind of like he doesn't say anything. He's got like an intensity in his eyes, but it's not like I guess he never gets worked up by you. So he's always like kind of like the dad in that way, where he's just
There's
like
only
very
a couple
like even
times.
keel. Yeah.
Well,
he throws a tantrum on his way back to the castle, but like for good reason. He's kind of in shit situation, but everything else he's very calm and collected on. And you're right, like that's like acting with your eyes. That moment where he's just like calmly and methodically just walking towards him, stabbing this guy out of the window with like a look like fuck you, don't ever touch her again. Like that's good shit. It works really nicely. It's a good performance.
It's a great scene. It's a great scene. Yeah.
What also is I think it's really important and necessary for him to kill that guy, because essentially this is, a Frankenstein tale, another one. And one of the best kind of like modern updates, I think, of a kind of Frankenstein tale where you have this creature and he's naturally very different. And so people fear him because they know what he's capable of doing. And he's mostly mindless. He only reacts in what is going on around him at first, at least. He doesn't know how to act in these types of situations. So when everything's positive, he's positive. When shit like goes down, then shit starts to go down for him. He pops the tire, he's cutting up the plants, he's tearing up the drapes, he's killing a guy, and throwing him out the window. He is the monster. And when he's left in isolation, longing kind of for love and like living forever up in this space, then, he doesn't seek to harm anybody.
I decided that I'm lonely.
Yeah. Poor old Edward. He's just up there trimming away.
That's the thing is like, it's very like, you're totally right. It's like him looking at the mirror at his reflection and just scraping down the walls is both at equal parts terrifying and heartbreaking for all the right reasons, because that is like I don't think this is just Frankenstein by any means, but I think to me it's almost more Pinocchio than anything else. But it definitely has that feeling of like the outside observer who does not know him very well, who sees him tearing up a bunch of shit, sees him cutting these topiaries in half and popping tires, think of him poorly.
Yeah.
But he's doing that because of his other rejection. So this is just what a tantrum looks like for somebody who others see as a threatening monster. You become a monster, and in your worst moments, you just become the monster because you become what people expect of you, because we all have those moments. We just don't all have scissors for hands, like
not yet anyways.
And that's, I remember, I don't like have a distinct memory of the first time I watched this, but I do have a memory of, or a feeling of watching it being young, because there are some things in this that really disturbed me. And a lot of it takes place in the castle. And so the inventor really like spooked me when I was a kid. And the scene where he gives him the hands and he's got the hands and he's like moving them and he's kissing them and he dies and he can't touch him and it's making the cuts on his face and the hands all, man, that's sad and also troubling, and it's just a lot of emotions, and the aesthetic matches. Whoa, what's going on? Oh,
when
it's
he
so...
collapses the hands onto this, like, it's like, I don't know, that is such a brilliant way of portraying that scene. I really love, like, not only did he lose his chance, but like lose his chance to like, his father figure's gone, but at the same time the hope for his future is being skewered by his own like faults in his mind. And it's like, this is fucking great visual storytelling. This is incredible visual storytelling.
Yeah.
It's like cutting through butter too. Like it shows how sharp those blades are. And this is Vincent Price plays the inventor, his father figure in this movie. And this, I believe this is Vincent Price's last film too.
He looks old,
Was it his last?
Yeah, he looks quite old.
I do know from trivia that he was slated to have a larger role in this, but couldn't because he had hardcore emphysema at the time. So, and I honestly think, like, for the purposes of the movie, I think that might be for the best, because like what we see is more than enough, and it tells you the whole story in a very like touching way. I don't think that much more background would be additive anymore.
I don't think. Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree too.
Yeah.
There's
that cookie machine he's got. It's pretty wild, man.
Dude. Oh, the fucking opening title sequence.
Yeah.
Fucking rules in this movie. I forgot that entirely, but it is fucking amazing looking.
That's good. There was a lot of stuff going on like that. Maybe it inspired this. I remember there was this, or we talked about that kind of German expressionism revival because of Tim Burton. There's a Bjork music video that's got vibes like this, where there's machines and they're all like wonky, and she drives in this giant like truck, and the whole city kind of like looks like this. I remember too that video for the Red Hot Chili Peppers' Other Side has that kind of vibe too. And so there are things like from this era that reminds me of this. I think was inspired by this. And there's some amazing just cinematography and shots when she first walks up into the attic, and there's this big wide shot, and there's the huge hole in the roof, and this lady in her pink kind of pastel dress. It looks fantastic. It looks amazing.
Even
and
his
the
little
set
hovel
pieces,
in the fireplace.
Yeah,
it's just
the
clearly the
bed.
only lived in spot in the whole building. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. And then like all the sculptures and stuff that he creates this magic, but it's like also too a little dangerous and spooky. And like the design of his hands, those things they're not just scissors, they're so giant, and also they work in these kind of like with this weird mechanism. They look fucked up.
Yeah, and they're
That's a Stan Winston.
Yeah, they're so
giant.
big, and the little cuts on his face, like all the little scratches and shit. Oh man, great design.
It was like annoying at first. Like every time I watch this, I have the same experience where I'm like, why is she trying to like cover up his scars or whatever? Like that's the least of his worries. And then like by the time she's like pasting putty on his face, I was like, oh, this is just a hilarious joke, and I love it.
Well, it shows her prerogative too. The first thing she thinks of is like, I'm gonna fix your face. Well, and to be fair, it's that kind of sweet. That's the only thing she's kind of capable of doing. The lavender, where she's like, oh, you have such a fair complexion. I think this will so
it's like literally wrong. Slightly purple white putty.
And he has no clue. He's just like kind of loving the attention and shit. I love it's so kind of sweet and precious. Also, played for a gag, but it's I like that scene.
I really love her character in this. She's so lovable.
She's so sweet. Yeah.
But I totally agree. Bob?
There was another moment, just a flashback to Vincent Price real quick, where he's reading, I believe it's like a book of poetry or something, to Edward, and he gets in the story, and Edward is trying to, I guess, emote, and he forces this smile onto his face.
Smile, it's funny.
My god, dude. It's so awkward and disturbing. It's such a great moment, man. I love that moment in this movie, but it's kind of scary.
It's also a scene too. Speaking about scary, his legs are laying next to him.
They're just sitting there.
He's just a torso. Yeah.
But you also they do this great moment where they show the the progressive sketches of how he started, where he is, and where
Yeah.
he's supposed to wind up. I like the visual storytelling. I can't praise it enough. And while we're on the topic of things that can't be praised enough, the score in this movie is impeccable. It's untouchable. It's one of the best Elfman's ever done. It's so fucking beautiful. Like
It
that.
is.
Like there's the only, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons that ice block scene is so impactful is because that score is like, it just hits like a ton of fucking bricks.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That moment is incredible in this movie. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It really genuinely does not get old ever.
Yeah.
Like it feels every bit as impactful every time I watch it. And that's the goal, man. Like if you like that's the fucking that's the golden, that's the brass ring. That's what you want as a filmmaker, is to be able for people to get an incredible impact from something multiple times. Like that's insane. That's insane.
Tim Hortons serving up multiples over here, everybody.
There is one thing. I mean, we've been praising this a lot, and it's a great movie, and like it deserves a lot of praise. There's one kind of thing. It's nitpicky. It is, but the aspect of Edward is so clumsy and constantly accidentally cuts people and makes these kind of like mistakes that make people scared of him or whatever. And yet he's so precise that he can carefully cut a dog's hair without scratching them at all, without cutting. And same with like, people are completely okay for this man. He's so precise and, makes these amazing things with their hair and their bushes and their dogs, but then he'll accidentally like turn around and cut somebody. It's like, okay,
I'm sorry, I was laughing because as you were saying that,
Oh,
you
yeah,
made a
squeeze
strong
it.
emphasis. Your fucking ear would go up on your hat.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, YouTube.
Behind
Anyway,
the scenes. Yeah.
I like your
I mean,
hat.
I mean, I agree, but at the same time, I also feel like that's, I can write that off pretty easily. I can logic that away as being like, he's focused on those things. Like he wasn't focused on Kim when he accidentally slashed her hand. He just noticed her. Like accidents happen because he is a walking instrument of for cutting things.
Yeah.
And shit happens to some degree. Unless he intends to, for the most part, nothing happens. But he cuts himself because he is around them 100% of the time.
Because he doesn't have fingers. Yeah. A lot of times it happens when he's like trying to do things that you just need fucking fingers for. But,
yeah, like
you
opening
need
a doorknob or getting some
Yeah.
peas on your plate, on your fork. Like
watching that man try and eat a single pea with his scissor hands is
it's very
excruciating.
frustrating. Yes.
I feel,
But then I like how
somebody feed him. Damn.
I like how he gets like the kind of the hang of it, where he gets some butter, he puts it on his bread.
Yeah.
He's got like a piece of sausage or meat or something on there.
Right.
And later he's got all the shish kebab shit on. That's pretty funny. And then people later are feeding him ambrosia from the spoon.
But that's for their reasons, not for him.
They're feeders. They like it.
They are feeders, yes.
How does he wipe his butthole though?
Dude,
I don't know if he has a butthole. Does he have a butthole? He's an automaton. He doesn't.
Real questions.
Honestly, this is a question. This is sincere. Like, if you want to get into the nitty gritty, if you
Yeah.
want to like get logical about it, which you don't have to and shouldn't have to, but he's just a leather daddy permanently. Does he have clothes underneath? Like, he's just a leather daddy with scissor hands. He's not supposed to be permanently.
I hate to see that peen, man. If he's got if his face is as cut up as it is, I can only
It's
imagine.
probably a well-cut peen.
God.
Also, to the logic of him having scissor hands, there's no reason for it. Why are you gonna make
he
some
just
scissor
started
hands
as that kind of automaton.
Mission,
Like,
yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Like if he started as an iPod, he might play music out of his ears. I don't know.
I do talking about the visual storytelling. I do like the beginning of that where there's that machine and he holds up the heart cookie or whatever. That's great. That's great.
It's very simple and it could be seen as hokey, but like again, like Tim Horton thrives in that hokiness. He knows how to make it work for him typically. And this is a great example of that. Like it's all very stylized in like an unbelievable way, and in using that unbelievability, it makes those sorts of things seem natural and very good and very like helpful as a viewer and impactful. It makes like, oh, this is a lonely guy. Oh, okay. Like, and at that point we already kind of know the tale, so it's kind of like, oh yeah, so he truly was just like this lonely guy who just had all these machines and he wanted to try and turn one into a son. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's Geppetto. It's Geppetto.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I was trying to think of some kind of more critiques, but I don't know.
I have a hard
have a
time
ton.
coming up with many, honestly.
Yeah.
Like some of these characters could have acted a little more like rational, I think, but I don't know, man. I think the story is pretty solid. I think the acting across the board is pretty solid. It's visually just stunning. The score is great. It hits
Even
me
like go
in
ahead.
Anthony Michael. Sorry, go ahead. You guys.
the
Everybody else
the,
talk.
the thing that like really solidifies this movie for me is like, you know, when she's dancing in the snow and it's like a very like lovely moment in the movie. It's very touching. And then at the end of the movie, when she says, as an old woman, like, sometimes you can still catch me dancing in it, it's just like, well, the cherry on top, man. I fucking love that moment. It's so sweet. She's talking to her granddaughter about it and everything. It's just, it really pulls at my heartstrings in a way that a lot of Tim Burton movies don't. And it just like kind of pushes this one over the edge for me.
That's fair, yeah.
I
Because
like it.
and even her little line, going to of like, I want him to remember me like how I was. That idea, touching on that idea of immortality and
which they didn't really like. That is a little bit of a flaw to me, because I was like, oh, is he immortal? Like, is that because it's just
I mean, he is.
It seems to
the
be,
nature of him. I mean, yeah, at the end it becomes like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
but like I feel like that could have been maybe set up a little bit more.
But yeah,
but that's like, again, that is a nitpick.
That's a good point. It is very like beautiful with the music, complemented with the music. Again, you know, kind of going back to Christina Ricci, Winona Ryder. I mean, I'm always kind of surprised about how scaled down her part actually is.
Yeah,
it's mostly the mom is mostly the one who interacts with him the most. And then after the barbecue and everything else, that's when she finally kind of comes in. So we've already spent a decent amount of time with Edward in suburbia. When he goes to the bank, it's with the mom. When he goes on the television show, it's with the mom. And then when he's setting up the salon, it's with the other woman, at least. And that's, again, I was thinking like, why is the mom gone? Why isn't the mom with him there? You know?
I totally agree with that. I think that's one of the things that bothered me too a little bit, is that like, while I think that having Kim be there at the end is like, it makes the story work in a lot of ways, but I feel like the mom not being privy to it, or not having a scene where Kim tells the truth to her mom or something like that, it may have been planned and just like not work pacing wise or something. I understand that, but I just kind of wish there was some sort of settlement for her. As the person who like did what almost nobody else in this whole fucking movie would have ever done, which is take this stray dog home and try and give him a life outside of isolation. Like, nobody else in this fucking show would have done that. I don't think. I think that's deserving of a closer for her.
I agree. Yeah, I agree, because she has these two other she's so sweet, and she has these two other really powerful moments as this figure for Edward, where she says, one, after everyone's turned on him, and then she's like, oh, come give me a new haircut for the party. And he's like, again? And she's like, of course, like, I'm so proud to have you as like that proud mom thing, when everyone else is turned against his craft or what he loves to do. She's like, I'm so proud. And then that little thing that speech she gives where she's talking, is it to the daughter, whatever, she's like, I thought it was the best thing for him, I wanted to take care of him, but maybe he's best back up at the cow. Well, that was so heartbreaking. And she doesn't really get an ending with him, and that does kind of hurt a little bit. It
does. I mean, I don't know. There's so many moments of her. There's more than that, because like there's the moment where people are canceling on their Christmas party, their annual Christmas party, they're saying like, well, I thought you'd be too embarrassed. She's like, well, you're wrong. I'm not embarrassed at all. He's part of our family or whatever she says. And then there was something else too. Like, on the TV show, somebody says like, well, if you get your hands, normal hands, then you won't be special. And she says, he's always going to be special to us. And it's like, this is the sweetest woman that's ever lived. Like, can we please give her a closer? Can we give her just a moment with Edward before the end of the movie where things are not, where he gets to like express thanks, or where they get some closure of some kind, anything.
Get some free Avon at least at the end. Come on.
Yeah, give me some more of that lavender putty before I
like
go.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other major points you guys want to touch on before we rate this one?
I don't think I got anything left.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we mostly covered it. Well, let's go ahead and do it. Randeezy, why don't you kick us off out of 5? How do you feel about Edward Scissorhands?
Oh man, I was planning to come in lower than I'm going to post here, and it's the conversation we've had is like just really brought a lot of that stuff like to bear for me. Like I do have those qualms. I don't think that this is a 100% perfect movie, but I think it's damn close. And so like part of me really wants to give it the flat 5. I think I'm going to go with a 4.75 because of those minor quibbles. And honestly, like that's me straining to be objective as opposed to straining to follow my heart on this, because it is a 5-star movie in my soul, but it is like on a craft level, from what I do know about the filmic industry and what nitpicks I do have, I think that there are improvements available to it. So 4.75, as much as it pains me.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I was kind of like conflicted, honestly, because this conversation has boosted. I was planning on coming in a little lower as well, but it is, when you're like really getting down to it, it's hard to critique a lot about it. There's a lot about Burton films. I feel it consistently. I love Beetlejuice, and we said it in the same kind of thing, where it's not always describable, and maybe in this way it's kind of the same way, where it feels like something's missing. Bob made a good point to where this one does have the emotional resonance that kind of pushes it further than a lot of Burton's film does. So maybe in Beetlejuice you could say it's that, but again, Beetlejuice, but and this one,
don't say it one more time. Beetlejuice will get you.
Beetlejuice.
Not Beetlejuice. Oh God.
I'm Beetlejuice. I'm Granny Beetlejuice. You want some cookies?
But there is something that feels a little missing here again, and I don't know exactly what it is. I think I'm going to echo Randy though and give it a 4.75. I think that feels fair. Good.
We really are a homogenous blob tonight. Bob, bring the blob home.
Hey guys. Damn. Yeah, I really like this movie quite a bit, as I've made pretty clear, I think. This is one of Tim Burton's better movies. I think the craft is completely there. You've got his like very specific stylings. The set design is incredible. You got the classic like Gothic castle, the weird machines, juxtaposed to like the suburbs, and the design of Edward Scissorhands himself, I think, is pretty iconic. I think just if anybody just saw that like at a a Halloween party, somebody dressed up as Edward Scissorhands, like they're gonna know exactly what that is off the cuff. I think the cast is great. I think all the performances are good. Johnny Depp kills it. The dad cracks me up. The mom is so sweet. The religious zealot like comes in and like does her role well. The thirsty Joyce is like fucking hilarious to me. That's another thing that like not all Tim Burton movies are like super funny. I think this is really funny. It's got some spooky elements to it. I don't know that I'd say it's really scary outside of like maybe the way that like some of these like suburban housewives like come after this dude and mistreat him. The meathead jock boyfriend guy is kind of scary actually. Just getting absolutely trashed in that extremely bitchin' van, by the way. That van kicks ass. And then coming after Edward the way he does is fucked up. The score is top notch. It's probably one of the better scores in a Tim Burton movie. It's a great Christmas movie, and like I mentioned, the thing that really steals it for me is the Winona Ryder dancing in the ice flakes, and then mentioning again that she still does that, and like telling her granddaughter the sweet story about this misunderstood sort of star-crossed lover type romance that she experienced when she was younger, and it's just like got this like wholesome, sweet vibe to it that I really vibe with hardcore. I similar to you guys, like I was gonna come in a touch lower, but I don't know. Like I can't really justify it. I think everything Tim Burton was trying to do, he did. And my enjoyment of this is like really kind of through the roof. It's like I don't really have any complaints necessarily. I think this movie's great, so I'm just gonna do it and give it a 5. I'm doing it. So that's gonna put our aggregate at a 4.8 for Edward Scissorhands.
High.
It occurs to me that we should have played Edward 40 Hands throughout this review, and we just totally blew that opportunity.
Should have done
That's
what?
not something. Some of us have to work tomorrow.
Just quit your job. That's fine.
Oh,
There was one thing I saw
Big old
Bob mentioning that it's like really funny. There was I think the dad does this. Maybe it's the mom and the dad together after he gets arrested, and they're talking about something like those damn TV programs. Damn them all to hell.
You're quasi-evil.
programs.
They're just the glossing over everything. Just the stereotypical,
it's
like,
just- I
damn
know, man.
those
It's
TV,
like-
not actually getting to the source of like
Right.
the problem.
It's the
They're like
media
Reaganite
that's the problem.
suburban parents that are just nothing but well-meaning, but like all the dad can do is say like, "Oh, I think running your own business is the greatest satisfaction a working man can have."
I've never done it
Like,
myself,
fucking
but I've
hilarious.
heard it.
Yeah. I've given to believe. I love that shit so
all the
much.
advice he has is like just not firsthand
It's-
experience.
It's just like the most plain, like
Yeah.
by numbers advice a dad could give.
I heard someone else say this, so I'm just gonna repeat it to you.
Yeah.
Here you go. Dude, when he drinks that whiskey, the noise he makes is fucking hilarious.
His
Good,
little
huh?
face.
Fucking-
Yeah.
Come on. Come on,
It's,
Alan Arkin.
Also, too,
Come
we have
on.
more of that. I mean, I kind of made the joke earlier, but just the dad being like, they're sweet when they're little, and then they just hit an age,
They
and then
swell up.
Yeah.
They swell up, he said. I thought it was ridiculous.
Oh my god, that shit.
Fucking A.
This movie rules.
Yeah, it's good shit. Watch it around Christmas time. Don't sleep on it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining our Halloween extravaganza. Watch this at
Right.
Christmas.
Hey, if
Pumpkins.
fades into
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
fading into it,
Yeah, I mean, you could watch this around Halloween. It's still got spooky vibes, like through the roof. So
It does.
I mean, you could if you wanted
It
to.
does that great line walk that Burton
Yeah.
does. So
Yeah. Well, let's go and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about Eddie Scissorhands.
all right. Well, time for me to take my rightful place at the throne here and give you boys a chance to guess within the best of your abilities what the aggregate positive score is on RottenTomatoes.com. We're going to start with the critics score as always. Bob, we'll start with you. Why don't you tell me there are 66 reviews. That's it. Just 66 to take into account here. What percentage, Bob, do you think are positive reviews?
I do think this is going to be pretty high. Will it be higher than Frankenweenie? Because that was fucking crazy high. I'll take just a 90. I think I'll go 90 even, please.
90. All right. Juice, how about you?
Oh shit. I think critics are gonna love this one. I think I mean, this is always in the top for Tim Burton, and Tim Burton is one of those iconic directors. And I think a lot of people can make a claim for this being his best film. So I think it's gonna hit those higher. Now I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna say 92 for a chance that maybe we could tie.
92.
The gentleman.
Oh. Well, I'll tell you, you're not going to tie. There's not a ringy dingy, but the winning number is only 1% off. And that winning number is 89%. That's the Rotten Tomatoes number. So Bob's going to take this one, 89%, which is only 1% more than Frankenweenie, which I think is not accurate.
Wow.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
For sure.
There needs to be more reviews counted here, and the fact that there are enough to ding this over 10% is a travesty on the scale of human trafficking, I would say.
On that scale, eh?
That's a stolen line from Parks and Rec, I gotta say. Anyway, overstating things intentionally, but yes, no, that's insane to me that they would be so cool. I understand that like maybe 89% of critics are just those are the critics that are open to Tim Burton at all. Like maybe the other 10% just don't care for what he does.
Some people just are in for the flavor that is Time.
I guess
Horton.
not.
Tim
Time Hortons coffee is great, but his
Time
movies,
Horton.
brr. Let's go over to the audience.
Hope you've been listening this whole show, so you know what's going on.
Absolute nonsense if you just skip.
I don't think it's that hard to
Scissorhands.
figure out. It's just too dumb. It's just too dumb not to figure out.
I see.
Let's go with our audience score now. There are 250,000 plus ratings, so a quarter of a mil here are at play. Quite enough to homogenize to a certain extent. I'm going to start with Juice this time. Where do you think those 250,000 reviews land in terms of positive versus negative?
Well, I gotta think it's lower than the critics, but I'm not going to go too low here. Based on what we saw with Frankenweenie, I think I'll say like 80%.
80? Okay.
Yeah.
80%. Bob, how about you?
I think this is a crowd pleaser too. I'm gonna go. I'll take an 82. Maybe we can tie.
What a
You guys are just so
gentleman.
cute.
Mm.
Well, you're both wrong. One of you, however, is 9 points off, and the number you are off from is 91% positive. Bob's gonna take this one too.
Oh, sweeping, Bob.
Did I just sweep it?
Wow.
You just swept. Congratulations.
Damn,
Put
I
your
got
broom
my
aside
butt
and take
but
your
whooped
award.
today. I only got one.
Yeah, you like that? Like how that feels?
But you won, though, ultimately, as we all know.
But ultimately, I'm
yeah.
a winner. I'm really.
Ultimately, you're
if
the
you
one
think
true
about
winner.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you think about it.
Pumpkins.
If you think about it, I actually won the most. So that's that's.
Oh yeah, but you got to think about it. Sounds so
All
dirty.
right.
But we're not elevated podcasting, so we're not going to think about it.
No.
We're definitely not that. Let's go to our critics' consensus. It reads as follows. The first collaboration between Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, Edward Scissorhands is a magical modern fairy tale with gothic overtones and a sweet center. I think that's perfectly reasonable. And then, as we always do, I'm going to read a random negative review, and it might be funny, and it might be embarrassing for somebody, is what I'm assuming.
I'm embarrassed.
Let's go with Roger Ebert. Let's see what old Ebert has to say.
All right.
Old Ebert in 2000, this was posted.
He gave a negative? Oh, no.
He gave a negative. He wrote, Burton has not yet found the storytelling and character building strength to go along with his pictorial flair.
This is after Beetlejuice and Batman.
Oh, he's still finding his way. You know?
Yeah. He
think-
just really doesn't know what he's
Man,
doing.
if this is finding his way and his way is to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, then let's just go back. Let's just take a step on back. No, that's I don't know. You can't get it wrong when you can't get it right every time if you're putting out reviews like that guy does, I guess. But Jesus. An embarrassing pull for Ebert. All right, that's our Rotten Tomatoes segment.
Let's call him and find out.
I hope you're embarrassed.
Hey, Ebes.
He's like,
why
dead,
you
right?
dogging on Tim Horton?
Let's call him from the Ouija board.
No, Siskel has passed. Ebert has not.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got you.
Let's still
Dude,
try to call him with the Ouija board.
Put that on as a Patreon exclusive. You
Pick
sign
up his
up
phone. Hello? Are you
at a
calling
certain
in another
tier.
Ouija board?
You can do a seance with us to shit down Siskel and Ebert's corpses if you want.
Damn.
What's insane is that we could be on a list next to Ebert's bad take here if they just let us on there.
Oh, boys. Yeah, Ray, you got more trivia for this?
I do have just this little spidget of trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right, I was lying. There's a lot of it, and I'm gonna try and read through it quickly. There's a lot of words, so a few pieces of trivia, a lot of words around those trivia. Here's one. The idea for the movie was inspired by a drawing Tim Burton had done when he was a teenager. The drawing depicted a thin, solemn man with long, sharp blades for fingers. Quote, since I liked to draw when I was younger, oftentimes images would come up and they'd stay with you. I'd keep drawing them. This was a character I sketched a while back, he says. He explains that the character represented him as he was when he was a teenager in his teenage years and how the film represents much of this time growing up. He likened growing up in suburbia to a Frankenstein movie where the suburbanites acting as angry villagers. Burton also stated that he was often alone and had trouble retaining friendships. Quote, I got the feeling that people just got the urge to want to leave me alone for some reason. I don't know exactly why. So yeah, that comes through in all of the movies we've talked about.
Sure.
Yeah.
One, even specifically in this one,
yes,
the way Edward looks with specifically his hair looks just like how Tim Burton used to wear his hair when he was younger.
Oh, Juice, you're just leading me right into the next thing.
Well, here we go.
Two things. I'm going to start with the one that ties into what you're saying. Edward's hair is based on Robert Smith of The Cure's hair, which I think is pretty clockable. Here's another piece, though, that I didn't know. Tim Burton had asked Robert Smith of The Cure to do the soundtrack for this film and even sent him the script. Robert was busy recording Disintegration at the time and didn't know who Burton was, so he passed the opportunity, handing Danny Elfman the job. And honestly, thank God.
That worked out.
I don't dislike The Cure. I don't have a strong feeling about them, really, and like maybe it would have been great, but this, I wouldn't change a thing about the soundtrack.
You can't beat Elfman and Time Burton collab.
Yeah, and it's just so good.
My boy Time.
My boy Elfman and Time just clock
Time and Elfman.
They say time goes by.
It goes on. It whore-toms.
Time is certainly going on.
Hey, anyway, time is going on. Let's keep it moving here. Keep the beat. I'm going to do a juice here and play a little game with this one. Earlier, we talked about how little Edward says in this film, how few lines he actually has. Edward only says X number of words in this film. Give me your best guess within 25 or closest to. How many words did he say in the course of the film? I'll start with Bob. Bob, you tell me.
I'll say 50.
50? Okay. Juice, how about you?
That's what I was going to say as well. So, since it's with
you're both wrong.
No, go
ahead.
I'll say 75.
Okay, well, 75 is closer, but you're both wrong. It's substantially more than that. It's 169.
Oh,
169.
Okay.
So, triple what you guessed plus, but still not a lot of words for leading for a title character of a movie.
For an iconic character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me like there was that piece of trivia about how many minutes of screen time Beetlejuice actually has in the film. It's so small. It's like 15 minutes or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's read some more here. The waterbed scene was one of the only scenes that was not originally in the script. Great ad. Love it.
Great ad.
It's got a great ad.
They also make a little, I don't want to step on Randy's trivia, but I also like the little kind of reference they made to Wizard of Oz and the Tin Man, where he's like, "No, don't use the hose. Get the oil can."
Yeah,
I didn't think about that as a reference, but yeah, you could say that. Yeah. It's not on here as far as I saw.
Okay.
Diane Weist. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
I think it's
Weist. I think it's pronounced Weista.
Nailed it.
Was the first to sign on. Diane in particular, this is a quote, Diane in particular was wonderful, Tim Horton said. She was the first actress to read the script, supported it completely, and because she is so respected, once she had given her stamp of approval, others soon got interested. So that was cool. Good. Does a great job and also carried some weight with her. Good.
Yeah. Carry that.
She's in a lot of stuff. Here's another one. This is the only film in which Vincent Price and his daughter, Victoria Price, both appear. However, they did not have a scene together. And I didn't know that. And I looked it up. His daughter Victoria Price plays one of the TV news anchors, or just the TV news anchor in this movie.
Who's asking him
next,
questions or whatever?
I don't know. I think it's like covering. I don't remember exactly, but I remember saying like I think it's like in the field reporting sort of thing, not when he's on TV, because that was a man giving him questions there.
Okay.
Anyway, the little blonde boy on the slip and slide at the beginning of this film is, can you guess? Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys, uncredited.
Never would have guessed that.
Nobody would have ever guessed that. It has been confirmed in multiple interviews, according to Nick himself. That is
He's
him.
so edgy. He's been in a Tim Horton film.
Oh yeah, it's very edgy.
Legendary director.
All right, here's just a very good story here. In her high school days, Winona Ryder got beaten up for not dressing like her character Kim. Instead, she felt comfortable in boys' clothing and had to face unfortunate consequences because of it. Ryder said she was kicked repeatedly in the school bathroom. Luckily, the actress was able to get revenge on her tormentors. She reveals, and this is a quote, "Years later, I went into a coffee shop in Petaluma and I ran into one of the girls who kicked me. She said, 'Winona, can I have your autograph?' And I said, 'Do you remember me? I went to Kenilworth. Remember how in 7th grade you beat up that kid?' And she said, 'Kind of.' And I said, 'That was me. Go fuck yourself.'"
There you go.
Atta-girl, Winona. Love that shit. Yeah. That's just karmic justice that I approve of.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna try and cut through some of these because some of them aren't as interesting. Okay. Edward is regarded as an artificial human, but he is made more of a homunculus rather than a robot or a golem. In an interview, Johnny Depp once characterized Edward as a creation and left it at that. I think that's fair.
Yeah, like Frankenstein.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a reanimated corpse.
Well, yeah, it is. But they do mention that he gave him a heart and a brain, or like in the narration, I think at the beginning when she's
and
the
the
old
nerve,
yeah, and a giant hog,
just a big wailing hog,
God damn. Made of metal.
Okay, 2 more things.
The wailing hog. Real
2 more
sharp.
things. When Edward is cutting the neighborhood lady's hair, the instrumental music is playing sounds. Wait a minute. The instrumental music playing sounds similar to a medley from Sweeney Todd, though it is not in a direct sample. And as we know, he would later direct that film.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, honestly. Yeah, when she has that freaking, she freaking creams her shorts over that haircut.
The most thrilling experience of my whole life.
She toe curls. She toe curls.
Woo.
When I was a child and watched this, that didn't really sink in.
Nope. Didn't really know what was going on there.
I was
she
just like,
really
wow,
likes that
this
haircut. I need to go get a haircut.
All right, last thing, and this is a little bit of a guessing game. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different actors' names here of people other than Johnny Depp considered for this role. Try and name one. Take as many guesses as you want.
5.
5.
They gotta be palish yet.
They are names that you would probably know, but they're largely most popular around this time.
Yeah, 1990. Who's some teeny bopper boys? Brad Pitt.
Okay, Brad Pitt. Bob, what do you think?
I'm totally blanking on this dude's name. The dude plays the dad in Back to the Future.
Oh, fucking Christopher, not Christopher Lloyd. What am I talking about? Fucking, oh, wow. I'm totally blanking too.
Oh, a Feldman. Or one of somebody. No, that's not who I'm talking. I'm guessing. I'm throwing out another guess for this.
Oh, you're. I see.
Good
Crispin
guess,
Glover is who you're thinking.
Yeah,
so you're saying Crispin Glover? It's none of those names.
Okay.
Tom
Cruise.
It's not him either.
Ooh.
Here they are. Sean
Christopher
Astin was
Walken.
considered for the. I'm sorry, this
Oh.
isn't. Fuck, I fucked this up. These were for the role of Jim, not for Edward. I completely.
Oh,
Randy.
Randy.
My
That would have
Come on.
completely changed my
I
answer.
would have said different things.
Then I would have got it right.
Like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
All right, take a guess.
Edward dies tonight, boys. We didn't make any Halloween.
Take a guess. Who do you who was considered for the role of Jim? Tell me. Besides Anthony Michael Hall, who was it?
Christmas dies tonight. He
The
should have
man
said
dies tonight.
that.
Christmas dies.
Let's
I
test
don't
this.
know.
I would have been right.
Oh, the guy from Michael Myers.
Michael
No.
Myers.
The Canadian. Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. Okay, Bob.
I don't know. Jim Carrey.
Man, you guys suck.
Yeah.
Sean Astin, Christian Slater, Kiefer Sutherland, Keith Coogan, River Phoenix.
I don't know who River
Kiefer would have been a solid, obvious
Kiefer, yeah.
choice. Yeah.
Well, his fucking mom from Lost Boys is already in here, so.
I was trying to think of Lost Boys. Yeah, that's why I said
Yeah.
a Feldman.
A Feldman would. That's not a bad guess.
But
Jim
but at the
Carrey is a
time
bad guess.
I was thinking of for Feldman I was thinking of potentially Edward. So
Gotcha.
Frog
Yeah.
Brother.
All right. Well, that's it for trivia.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, let's round this episode out with a giant cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's character type in a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, but we want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points of cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, we got 3 movies to choose from. We gotta have some cooters. Why don't we start off with, let's work our way backwards. The guy we were just talking about, guessing about.
Anthony Michael Hall?
Yeah, Anthony Michael Hall.
Jim?
We've already given it to him in a Halloween movie. Let's see if we can get him in a Time Born movie.
Well, he's definitely manipulative.
Manipulation, smug
as fuck.
arrogance.
Check.
The dress is
patheticness. I would say patheticness.
Oh yeah, his like immense hatred for his
Drive,
dad and shit. Like
making that dude
like,
drink.
I don't know what his
drive.
dad is like. Yeah, the drinking drive and all that stuff. Don't you want to get a new van where we can be together anytime we want? Like, oh, fuck you.
And him also just like, you think she wants you, Edward? She wants this hog.
I do love Anthony Michael Hall in this role because before this, I think every movie that I knew him in before this, he was like the downtrodden nerd type, and he totally changed types movie. So good for him on that. But anyway. Yeah, he's a cooter, but I would argue not the biggest cooter in this movie.
No, let's go with what's her name? Rapist.
Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce.
The rapist, Joyce, the Ambrosia rapist.
Ambrosia. The Ambrosia rapist is on the loose.
She rapes that mouth and then she goes for that peen but gets denied. She starts slamming shit into his mouth.
What a sound clip we've got.
Now we're all the cooters.
So yes, sexual deviance. Obviously, she's trying to bang everyone. I love how
patheticness.
Pathetic manipulation. When she comes over, and she's like, "Oh, it's time's the barbecue."
Yeah, and she's just lying. She's telling lies.
Oh yeah,
about Edward. Like
manipulation. Yeah, looking at Tyre, she is tacky as shit.
Dude, them titties are just out, son.
Poppin'.
They are out.
She's the cooter out of this movie, I would say.
Yeah.
And like let's see who she's sharing cells with. I was thinking about Frankenweenie. I can't really think of anybody.
It would mostly be the neighbor. I would
Burgermeister.
Yeah, and he's
like,
smug, arrogant.
Not a lot. Yeah,
he's like smug, arrogant, and he's kind of pathetic.
he's a little manipulative towards the Winona Ryder
girl,
character, girl. Yeah, but I mean, it's debatable at best.
Might be
I
a
just don't think
cooter
there's-
light.
I think he's a cooter that would be. I think he would be a cooter if we saw more of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cooter light.
Other than that, though, like there's like you could
So
maybe
let's go
say the
back.
Igor kid, but nah,
I don't think
just
so.
a kid, you know.
So our first movie, Sleepy Hollow, the Miss Van Tassel or whatever.
Sure, yeah, the witch girl.
Yeah, pale lady, number 2.
Number 2, yeah.
She is manipulative. She has this whole crazy plan that she's concocted that's very complicated. She is smug, arrogant. Say.
Yeah.
She has sexual deviance because she is sleeping with that one guy, the dad from Beetlejuice, Beetlemang.
Oh yeah,
Beetlemang. Yeah.
Well, and she also like she like sidewinded her way, manipulated her way into being married to the guy in the first place.
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
For his money.
So that she is kind of pathetic because she sold her soul to the devil. I would say that's kind of pathetic.
And she also
do it yourself.
She tells the headless horseman to murder a child.
Yeah.
Too, which is goddamn.
Yeah. I only sell my soul to myself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And looking attire, they're all just like old timey.
She kind of she's old timey, and at the end she gets real like gothic horror looking, and it's all awesome. So
yeah,
no complaints there.
I think she hits enough points though.
Yeah,
but definitely Joyce. Wow, are all the cooters women? No, Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah.
But the biggest cooters are Time Borton.
Old Time Horton. He really hates the ladies, as we all know.
That's what we found
They're
out.
They're the real
takeaway.
villains.
Oh wow.
That's what I've learned.
Oh wow.
Later.
Damn.
That's
time.
odd. So yeah, I think we got him. I don't. Anybody else you want to nominate, boys?
No,
I don't think so.
I think we got him.
Pumpkins.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Cool. Well, man, I mean, that's 3 movies. That's the triple feature.
Whew, boys, we did it. We did it.
We done it.
We did it. Another super packed Halloween episode in the books. Number 10. I think this is the 10th year we've done this. I think.
I don't know if we did a Halloween special though the first year. That's when we were first started.
And it has evolved. We've done different things. It hasn't always been a triple feature, but it's evolved.
It used to be a double feature.
Yeah.
We can't fucking stop adding.
But that's not big enough.
More.
We should do quadruple feature.
You know, you might be onto something there, Randy. And we'll do it every week in October.
We're gonna do it every week of the year. You mean, of course. We've got nothing but time.
We got a lot of horror movies to go. We somehow got to pick up the pace. So that's the only way I see we can get them all.
We got nothing but Time Horton on our hands. So let's get to going. Damn.
Oh boy.
We're just gonna do this every day. We're just gonna review
Next
a
year
movie every day.
Next year, you're all just gonna get a rock.
I got a rock.
You're gonna get 365 movie reviews and bonus Patreon episodes.
You can buy my liver on Patreon for the low price of $25 a subscription. You looking for a liver? Heavily used?
rough shape.
It's in fair to bad condition, but you can have it for a song.
Fair to roadkill.
But it's a collector's item, so yeah.
It is, yeah.
This is Randy's liver here from Straight Joe.
I'll throw in an NFT for you.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Well, hopefully you guys are having a great Halloween season and getting in the spirit of the holiday, carving up your jack-o'-lanterns, eating 18 pounds of candy a day, and just going buck wild. Yeah,
Thanks,
I don't know.
I appreciate
anything
that.
else? Anything else you guys want to ramble off there before we close out? We don't have any voicemails this week.
Well,
I guess we could check out some prompts for next week if you guys have anything in mind.
Well,
All
by
right,
time
spooky-
coming up. Oh, go ahead.
No, you start it.
Nope, go ahead.
We're going to the same place.
Go ahead.
Okay. So spooky season's ending. This is our big fare thee well to the season. We're gonna be jumping into some other fall stuff, some winter stuff. Where is your seasonal viewing at right now? What are you kicking off post spooky season with? Are you easing in? Are you hitting a hard cut and then starting your Home Alone viewing right away? What are you doing?
When are you watching Blood Rage?
Yeah.
Soon. Real soon. Yeah, let us know what you've been doing for the month of October.
Yeah, how was everything? Check in. Yeah, how was your spooky season? We've been celebrating it for 4 months now. It's time. All good things must come to an end. It's always sad to see it go, but it was a good time. We had a lot of good stuff going on this year.
It's only 8 more short months until the next season.
I know. We'll be counting down before you know it.
That's how years work.
Well,
yeah. Call in and let us know at 904-638-3231. We will be back next week with a new show as always. We're tackling another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by Gabriel, and the movie is Fear from 1996. I believe Mark Wahlberg is in this. I've not seen this one. Are you guys familiar with Fear?
I am not.
But I did put together the graphics, so I know a little bit.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so check out Fear from 1996. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, you can find us on all the social media outlets. Just search Straight Chilling Podcast and we'll pop right up. If you want to join us on our daily Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of those social media outlets and I'll send you a link so you can join in on the fun. Everybody stay safe out there. Enjoy your Halloween. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Happy Halloween!
Pumpkins, 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 pumpkins,